Hello guys, how are you all? We are Muse Fanfiction. So in this video we will see what if Naruto became the god of shinobi with Madara's guidance. But before we start, please like and subscribe our channel. In the basement of Konoha Central Hospital, a baby was being born. The woman was very beautiful with her long red hair tied up into two buns and beautiful blue eyes that shone like the sky. She wore a simple white kimono that even in her vulnerable state, still looked stunning on her. In her hand was the broken hand of her husband. He was a tall man with tan skin and dark eyes. He had waist-length black hair styled in a center-parted fringe that framed his face. He wore the standard shinobi dress of his era, consisting of dark red armor worn over a simple black suit with sandals. This armor was constructed from numerous metal plates, formed into multiple protective guards along his body. Each collar of his shoulder guards bore the Senju symbol. On his forehead was a black headband with the design of a leaf. Hashirama tried to pull his hand out of his wife's chakra-enhanced grip but to no avail. "It's okay Mito-chan, you have to stay calm." Mito Uzumaki turned to look at him with piercing eyes. "I am going to kill you. You can kill me later, but first we have to get a baby out of you," Hashirama pointed out. Mito growled before letting go of his hand. Instantly, the Shodai Hokage's hand glowed with green chakra and all of the broken bones righted themselves. "Alright, let's do this," Hashirama said as his hands glowed once more with green chakra. Hashirama took a deep breath. 3. Mito took a deep breath. 2. 1. Push, he ordered. Mito pushed with all of her might, calling upon all of her Uzumaki life force T. Oh, give her the strength to deliver this baby. There was silence for a moment before a cry rang out. Hashirama stood up, a small bundle in his hands. "It's a boy," he whispered in awe as he handed the boy to its mother. The baby had bright blue eyes and an odd mixture of blood red and spiky gold hair covering his head like a crown. On each cheek were 3 whisker marks, giving him the appearance of a fox. Mito smiled when she saw her son. The life she had brought into the world. "What should we name him?" Hashirama asked with a wide smile. Mito looked into the baby's blue eyes with her own and instantly knew the answer. "Naruto Senju, take this." A blur rocketed into the newly built Hokage's office. The small boy soared through the air in a perfect flying side kick before soaring straight into the face of the first Hokage. The boy was about 4 years old, his spiky red and gold hair styled similarly to his uncle's. He wore a black t-shirt with the symbol of the Senju clan inside of the Uzu Maki swirl on his back and a pair of black Anbu pants. "Chu-san, Oji-san," he yelled when he sprang up. His uncle shook his head with a sigh. Tobirama was a fair-skinned man with white, shaggy hair and dark-colored eyes. He had 3 red markings on his face, one under each of his eyes and one on his chin. He wore a simple, short-sleeved, blue shirt kimono with mesh armor underneath and held closed by a pale yellow sash. All of this was over a pair of blue pants and a bracelet with the Senju symbol on it. "Bakas," he mumbled under his breath. Naruto pouted. "Chu-san, you said you would teach me waterfall walking today." Hashirama sighed. "I'm sorry Naruto, I have too much paperwork. Why don't you ask your mother for level 5 Fuinjutsu practice?" It had become apparent that Naruto was a genius when he began speaking at 6 months. Writing at 2 and mastered level 1 Fuinjutsu in a day, when he was 3. "Hey Ka-san, what's with the weird words?" Naruto asked. His mother was sitting at the kitchen table and she was currently writing something on a piece of paper. Mito smiled at her son's interest in their clan's specialty. "This is Fuinjutsu Naru-kun. It allows you to seal things into other things." "Whoa, like the fox thing you have in your stomach," Naruto said. Naruto was a sensor of the highest caliber, just like his uncle, and had sensed earlier that year a huge amount of chakra in his mother's stomach. Mito gave a small laugh. "Yes Naru-kun, can you show me?" Naruto asked as he climbed the chair next to his mother. "Show me your handwriting. One misstroke and you could make it blow up," Mito said, as just as animated as her husband and son. "Whoa, I want to see things blow up," Naruto said. "You don't see things like this blow up," Mito said before handing Naruto a brush. "Draw the kanji for seal," she instructed. Naruto did as he was told and drew a perfect kanji for seal, much to his mother's surprise. "Now draw the kanji for open and closes on both sides." Make it small though, she said, doubting her son could do this. But Naruto drew the two kanji easily and Mito's jaw threatened to drop. Nevertheless, she pointed at the cup on the table. Now place that cup on the scroll. Naruto nodded and placed the cup directly over the kanji for seal. Now what? Now channel a little chakra into the scroll, Mito instructed. Naruto nodded before charging the seal with more chakra than the average Chunin had. There was a large puff of smoke, and when it dissipated, there was no cup. Incredible, Mito mumbled under her breath. Even she hadn't gotten level 1 Fuinjutsu on her first try, and she was known as the greatest Fuinjutsu user of the Uzumaki clan. Hey Ka-san, can you teach me something else? Naruto asked his mother while waving a hand in front of her face. She had kind of just zoned out and he found this writing thing cool. Mito shook her head before smiling widely. Of course Naru-kun. Thus Mito and Ashina had taken it upon herself to teach the greatest prodigy that Uzumaki had ever seen. Naruto shook his head. Ka-san said Ashina Gigi needs to send over scrolls by Shark Summon. Then she sent me to ask you to train me. Okay, Hashirama said with a smile. He jumped over his desk and was about to walk out of the room when Tobirama burst his bubble. Oni-sama, the paperwork. Hashirama hung his head and sighed, looking back at the 3 piles of paperwork sitting menacingly on his desk. Right, Naruto watched the two of them with confusion. Why don't you just use clones? Like Moku Bunshin, wood clones, or Oji's new Kage Bunshin, shadow clones. Both men froze on the spot and looked at each other. Neither Senju brother said anything before Hashirama grabbed his son and lifted him in the air. Naruto, you're a genius, Hashirama yelled as he spun his son around with glee. Tears of happiness falling from his eyes. Now can you teach me waterfall walking? Naruto asked, getting dizzy from the spinning. Hashirama put down his son and grinned. Not only that, Tobi-kun and I are going to test your affinity. Naruto pumped a fist into the air in happiness. Yes, let's go, Hashirama yelled as he raced out the room only for his brother to burst his bubble once more. Oni-sama, the paperwork. Right, Hashirama said as he scratched the back of his head sheepishly. He made the snake hand seal and 3 identical clones made of wood formed from the ground. Do the paperwork please, he asked the clones, who gave him a thumbs up. Gotcha Oyabun, they shouted in unison before getting to work. Tobirama rolled his eyes but said nothing at his brother's antics. Let's go, Hashirama yelled as he ran out the door, Naruto right behind him. Tobirama sighed and shook his head. Let's go, he then took off after them, a tiny smile on his face. Kaden. Karyudan. Fire release. Fire dragon bullet. A now 6-year-old Naruto flipped through hand seals before placing a hand to his mouth and blowing a large ball of fire. The ball of fire quickly morphed into a 30-foot-long dragon before flying toward its target, Tobirama Senju. However, the man wasn't the Sujin, god of water, for nothing. He formed a single Tora hand seal. Sweden. Sweryuden. Water release. Water dragon bullet. A 30-foot dragon made of water shimmered into existence around the man before flying at Naruto. The 2 elemental dragons flew at each other before colliding mid-air, enveloping the training field in steam. The steam cloaked the field, restricting vision as well as the Kokuangyo no Jutsu, bringer of darkness technique. There was silence when suddenly 2 kunai flew from the smoke. Naruto instantly slipped into a Batojutsu stance. He drew the katana at his waist and cut both kunais in half effortlessly. Naruto sheathed his blade and focused, searching for his uncle's thick chakra in the mist. Suddenly his eyes snapped open and he leapt into the air, just in time to avoid 5 bullets of water fired at him, intent of impaling Naruto. Sweden. Suigaden. Water release. Water fang bullet. Naruto leapt out of the way only be kicked mid-air by his uncle, who had appeared in a shunshin. The boy flew backwards but twisted mid-air, so he landed in a crouch. But the battle was over. In a yellow flash, Tobirama appeared with the Raijin no Ken at Naruto's neck, its yellow blade sparking with danger. Damn it, Naruto mumbled. He knew exactly what happened. When he was kicked by his uncle, Tobirama had imparted a Hiraishin marker on him. Tobirama gave a small laugh. You did good, much better than last time. Thanks Oji-san, Naruto said with a smile. Come on, let's get going. You have your first day of the academy today, Tobirama said. Sweet. Naruto cheered before grabbing Tobirama's hand. They both disappear in a yellow flash, leaving a destroyed battlefield in their wake. Naruto appeared in front of the academy with a big smile on his face. The building was huge and painted red and white. On the front was a giant sign that had the kanji for fire, and seemed to glow in the morning sun. Let's do this, he yelled as he ran into the building. He quickly found his classroom and was surprised to see there were people already there. One was a taller boy hidden by his large gray trench coat. Naruto could tell he had spiky black hair and was wearing a pair of black goggles. But when the young Senju felt his chakra, he nodded that there were thousands of tiny signatures buzzing around inside of him. Next to him was a round boy with long, spiky auburn hair and brown eyes. He wore a simple pair of black pants and a yellow shirt with the kanji for food. He had a big smile on his face and a hand into a bag of cheddar cheese chips. Sitting next to him was a boy with long ash blonde hair reaching into his back, which he wore spiky on top and ending in a long ponytail, blue-green eyes and strong facial features, which included a well-defined jawline. He wore a simple pair of black pants, a maroon-colored shirt and a green vest. The last boy had dark eyes and black hair tied back into a spiky ponytail that looked like a pineapple. He wore a pair of brown pants, a mesh shirt and was wearing a brown deerskin vest. Naruto smiled at the boys before sliding into a seat next to the boy in deerskin who was entranced with the shogi board in front of him. Hi, Naruto introduced. The chubby one raised a hand. Chocho Akamichi. The one covered in a trench coat nodded. Kurifuda Aburame. Anoshishi Yamanaka. My friends call me Ino, the blonde-hair one said with a wave. Naruto turned to the last boy but the boy said nothing. Hi, I'm Naruto. Naruto began before he was cut off by the black-haired boy. You're Naruto Senju, the Hokage's kid, the boy said as he rolled a gold general piece between his fingers. Naruto was shocked. How did you know? Senju clan symbol in the Uzumaki swirl, only one person has that. Besides, you match his description, the boy explained. Naruto gave a small laugh. I know who you are too. Shika Nara. Naruto picked up the king piece and spun it between his fingers. I'll play a game. Shika scoffed but placed his piece onto the board. Naruto followed suit and smiled. You go first. Shika said nothing but moved a piece. Naruto did the same, dozens of possibilities running through his head. This continued for close to half an hour and the audience was shocked. No one stood this long with Shika. Not even his own father. Sweat had begun to condense on Shika's face while Naruto's brow was furrowed in concentration. The battle of the geniuses waged on until Naruto finally got Shika's king into check. Fear briefly pasted onto the black-haired boy's face as he tried to think of a way out of check but was shocked when there was none. Checkmate, Naruto said as he captured Shika's king. Chocho's eyes widened. Impossible. He beat. Kurifuda began, shock evident in his voice. Shika. Anoshishi said flabbergasted. It had seemed they had gathered a crowd. A bunch of other children their age had formed a circle around them and had watched the game with awe. Naruto's eyes gazed over everyone but only two people stood out. One was a pretty girl with shoulder-length white hair and had a pink flower hair band. She wore a green kimono, light brown long-sleeves shirt with a loquat on the back, red pants and sandals. The other was a boy with short black hair and black eyes that shone like mirrors. He wore a pair of gray shorts and a high-collared black shirt with the Uchiha fan on the back. Naruto stuck out a hand to the Uchiha boy. Naruto Senju, Kagami Uchiha, the boy said, his eyes morphing into the Sharingan. Both boys sized each other up, taking in each other's builds and what abilities they could tell. Kagami could tell Naruto was ambidextrous since he had a kunai pouch on each leg. Kagami had two wakizashis going across his back which meant he was both ambidextrous and had some skill in kenjutsu. You're Hashirama-sama's kid, Kagami said. You're Madara-sama's, Naruto responded. The children of the two rival clans looked at each other once more. Naruto knew Kagami wasn't like the rest of the Uchihas and Kagami knew Naruto wasn't like the rest of the Senju. Attention class. Everyone turned around to see a man with long brown hair. He wore a green Chunin vest over a simple black suit and had a clipboard in hand. His brown eyes washed over every student and approved of what he saw. He smiled and clapped his hands together. "All right, class, it's time for your lives as ninjas to begin." It was morning in the Senju compound of Konoha, but I never said it was a peaceful morning. A 12-year-old Naruto Senju jumped up and down on top of his father's unconscious body. Hashirama Senju had fallen asleep on the couch the night before after staying up late to do paperwork. Naruto's eyebrows furrowed in annoyance. He coated his foot with chakra and stomped on his father's chest, unleashing the chakra at the last moment. There was a loud bang as Naruto's chakra explosion caused the floor buckle underneath them. It was then that Hashirama Senju finally awoke and yawned widely, unaware of any of the carnage his son had just caused. "What happened? Today's the day I graduate," Naruto cheered, jumping up and down in excitement. Hashirama's eyes widened before he jumped up, causing Naruto to backflip off of his chest and land. As they both dashed out the door, Naruto and Hashirama snapped their fingers, activating the seals Naruto had made last year. Naruto now wore a more streamlined version of the armor of the Warring States over a pair of black pants. Over this, he had on a black haori with the words, "Hai no Ishi," on the back in red kanji. Both the armor and the haori were not originally black, but Naruto had drawn on so many protective and storing seals onto them that Mito had decided to just dye the clothing black to disguise them. But the most noticeable difference was the black headband on his forehead, which he wore with pride in both his village and his abilities. After all, Naruto had become a level 10 seal master, at the age of 7. This was something many thought to be impossible because the only level 10 seal masters besides Naruto were Ashina Uzumaki, head of the Uzumaki clan, and Mito Uzumaki, Naruto's own mother and the greatest seal master in Konoha history. Of course, there was a reason for Naruto's new abilities, or rather a new understanding. 2 months into the academy, Hashirama deemed that it was time for Naruto to learn the Senju clan secret. The clan leader and the clan heir sat on top of a pair of tree stumps in the middle of Training Ground 7. The trees around them blocking out sound. "Hey Tu-san, what's up?" Naruto asked as he brushed his red and gold hair out of his face. "Naruto-kun, it's time for you to learn the history of our clan," Hashirama said with a sigh. 1 millennia ago, mankind fought countless battles, leaving the earth soaked with blood. A tree grew from the blood of the deceased, gaining the attention of the Otsutsuki clan. As it bore a fruit of great power, Kagaya Otsutsuki, a princess and leader of the clan, longed for peace. Having decided that it was necessary for her to attain god-like powers in order to put an end to all of humanity's conflicts, Kagaya defied the taboo against consuming the fruit of the Shinju. Using her newfound power, Kagaya single-handedly ended the wars, and for her deed, she was worshipped as the rabbit goddess. However, her strong power clouded her judgment and she grew despotic, resorting to controlling mankind by force. This sudden change to a merciless dictator morphed her public image from a benevolent goddess to that of a demon. On the brink of insanity, Kagaya incarnated together with the Shinju to create the Jubi when she discovered, much to her anger, that her 2 sons, Hagoromo and Hamura, inherited her powerful chakra and unique dojutsu. Hashirama explained. "Whoa," Naruto whispered under his breath. Hashirama nodded. Hamura had the Byakugan and the Tenseigan, 2 dojutsus of unimaginable power. But it was Hagoromo that became known as the Rakudo Sennin, Sage of 6 Paths. "Really?" Naruto asked, his jaw dropping. Everyone knew who the Rakudo Sennin was. He was the greatest shinobi ever and the creator of ninjutsu. With his Rinnegan, Hagoromo became the most powerful man in the history of the world. He could split the ground, create tsunamis with a wave of his hand, shoot huge dragons of fire easily, launch thousands of bolts of lightning and make blades of wind sharp enough to cut through anything. Hashirama explained, making whoosh noises and other sound effects to explain. Naruto's eyes sparkled. Awesome. Together, he and his brother sealed their mother into the moon and destroyed the threat of the Jubi by splitting it into the Biju. He had 2 sons, Indra Otsutsuki and Asura Otsutsuki. Hashirama explained, meanwhile happy he didn't have to explain how babies were made. Indra was the prodigy, a genius of the highest caliber and heir to his father's eyes. He unlocked his version of his grandmother's dojutsu known as the Sharingan and mastered it by the time he was 6. He unlocked the man Gekyo by the time he was 13 and mastered the Susanoo when he was 15. Recognizing his own talents, Indra became proud and independent, determined to walk his own path unaided. He believed that force and strength were the ultimate key to peace. Hashirama recalled. Naruto's face contorted in disgust. Why would someone think that? Asura was the opposite, untalented and believing that love was the path to peace. He inherited his father's body and life force. He became a genius from hard work and eventually grew strong with the help of his friends and allies. Hashirama recalled. Naruto grinned at the thought. Hashirama grinned. When the Rakuto Sennin was about to die, he deemed Asura his heir due to them sharing the same ideals. Indra, enraged, challenged his brother to a battle that would rock the world. However, in the final battle, Indra stood alone while Asura was backed by his friends and allies who would die for him and he for them. Hashirama said. Naruto grinned. This Asura dude was his kind of guy. Indra's descendants are known as the Uchiha and his lust for power is known as the curse of hatred, Hashirama said. Naruto's eyes widened. Whoa, some Uchihas have broken the curse of hatred. Madara and your friend Kagami being a few that have, Hashirama said. Naruto nodded. Madara was crazy and his father's rival, but he always looked out for the welfare of Konoha and his family. Kagami was a pain in the ass, but he was his friend and one of the people he would give his life for. It was then Naruto realized a hole in the story. What about Asura's descendants? Asura's descendants preached the will of fire. The belief that love is the key to peace. They created two clans, the Senju and the Uzumaki, Hashirama explained before poking Naruto right in the chest, right over the symbol of the Senju clan within the Uzumaki spiral. Naruto's eyes widened in understanding. Wait, that means, yes, Naruto, you are the first person to have the blood of the Senju and the Uzumaki. Thus you are the true heir to the Hi-no Ishi, Hashirama said with a proud smile. When Mito had told him she was pregnant, he had almost shit himself when he realized. He had ran into the Senju clan archives and searched for the document given to him by his father. Imagine his expression when he realized that his son would be the first person since Asura Otsutsuki that held both the body and the life force of the Rakuto Sennin. Hashirama gave a small laugh at the memory before remembering he hadn't finished the history lesson. The Uzumaki inherited Asura's life force and creative mind, while the Senju inherited Asura's will and body. Thus, the Uzumakis were born with huge pools of chakra and became the masters of Fuinjutsu. What about the Senju? Naruto asked his father. The Senju were born with a special bloodline. They inherited Asura's body and will thus we have the ability to master an ability if we put our heart and soul into it, Hashirama explained. I wished to master elemental ninjutsu in my bloodline. Tobirama-kun wanted to master Suiten and Jikuken Jutsu and Toka-chan wanted to master Genjutsu. This is why the Senju clan is known as the clan with 1,000 hands. As we may master whatever we wish, Hashirama said. Whoa, Naruto said with awe as he was smart enough to understand the implications of such a gift. So what do you want to master, Naruto-kun? Hashirama asked. This was the true purpose of this lesson, so Naruto could discover his focus. Naruto put a hand to his chin and puzzled hard. Can I master more than one thing? Hashirama nodded hesitantly. Yes, but it will be very hard to do. You will have to work day and night to master them. Okay, San. I want to master elemental ninjutsu, fuinjutsu and kenjutsu. Naruto yelled. Hashirama raised a confused eyebrow. Fuinjutsu. You're an Uzumaki, of course you're gonna master fuinjutsu. Naruto shook his head. No, I want to master it in a way no one has ever done before. I'll master it too. The point that I can perform seals with no hands or imaginary seals or something. Hashirama sighed and hung his head. Okay, let's get to work. He jumped up and whirled around, pointing at the blooming sakura trees. You have an affinity to fire, lightning and water, so in order to master wind and earth. For the rest of the day, Training Ground 7 was full of laughter and hard work as father and son bonded over something they both loved. Naruto and Hashirama appeared in a flash right in front of the academy. The academy looked the same except for the recent addition of the Hokage's office to the building. The fire's shadow must protect the budding leaves. Meanwhile the current fire shadow doubled over and began heaving. I hate it when you and Tobi-kun do that. Naruto laughed as he walked into the school with his father behind him. The classroom itself had not changed, only the people in it. Bawako's white hair was now down to her mid-back and she now wore a short white kimono with low-ing sleeves but cut off about halfway down her thigh, revealing a pair of black skin-tight shorts. Going across her back was a tanto with a pitch-black sheath. Kagami had grown out his hair so it looked a lot like his father's, so that along with a set of red armor similar to Naruto's, he looked very much like his father. His twin wakizashis had been joined by a gunbai similar to his father's and he wore his forehead protector around his waist like a belt. Naruto and Kagami stood on the opposite sides of a training field. All of their armor, weapons and anything that could give them an advantage had been shed. This was a battle of skill and skill alone. They each sat in very different stances. Naruto's back leg was bent and was bearing most of his weight while only the ball of his foot of his left leg rested on the ground. His left hand was in front of him at waist level and parallel with the floor. His right was perpendicular to that one, close to his chest like he was about to pray. This was the Katsujinkan, the saving fist, a style created by Naruto that combined the defensive Senju style, the offensive Goken, the precision striking of Juken and the practice of using every limb from Muay Thai. Ironically, the saving fist was one of the most dangerous styles in all of Konoha. Kagami's feet were shoulder-length apart but it was his hands that were dangerous. Each were held in open knife hands, with one parallel to the floor at waist level while the other was at eye level. This was the Mutoryu, the no-sword style. By incorporating his Kenjutsu style and his Uchiha Interceptor fist, Kagami was able to create a style. Both boys disappeared in a burst of speed before meeting each other's fist in the center of the field, releasing a small shock wave. Naruto dropped to the floor and swung his leg to sweep Kagami's but the Uchiha just jumped out of the way. Naruto kept swinging his leg and placed his hands on the floor, pulling himself into a whirlwind. Kagami twisted in the middle of his jump so he did a somersault, avoiding Naruto's kicks. Kagami sprung forward while Naruto was still recovering from the spin and tried to kick the Senju in the head only for Naruto to barely block the kick with his forearms. Naruto grabbed the leg and quickly struck 2 pressure points on it, causing the limb to instantly go numb. Kagami cursed before twisting on his remaining leg to perform a spinning hook kick, attempting to strike Naruto in the face with his heel. Naruto however ducked under and stepped with his right foot, his right hand held in a nukite. Katsujinkan, Kazo nukite, saving fist, counted overhand stroke. He yelled as he struck Kagami with 4 fingers, then 3, then 2, then 1, within a matter of seconds. The Uchiha flew back from the strength of the tech Hnikue and struck a tree with enough force to make a dent. Luckily, the strike must have restored movement to Kagami's arm as he placed both hands in front of his, fingers curved inwards like claws. Tatsumaki, Dragon Twister, he yelled before propelling himself forward, twisting his body like a twister. In an instant, he was a mere 2 feet from Naruto. Kagami planted a foot on the floor and thrust his claw hand out. For a split second, the aura of a dragon surrounded the Uchiha while an aura of tiger surrounded Naruto. Kagami thrust his spinning claw at Naruto when suddenly the Senju disappeared so suddenly. Kagami thought he had used the Hiraishin. Actually Naruto had dropped to a crouch, dodging Kagami's attack and allowing his to use his next technique. Naruto quickly placed one hand to the floor before lifting his body into a one-handed handstand. Senkyutai, drill bow thigh, Naruto yelled before delivering a sharp high kick with his right leg straight into Kagami's chin. For a second Kagami was weightless as he flew into the air but that changed as he suddenly crashed to the ground. Kagami was about to get up when he realized he couldn't. Damn it, looks like the Uchiha can't beat the Senju. Ah, how history repeats itself, Naruto taunted with a grin as he thrust out his hand. Just you wait fishcake, I'll kick your ass next time, Kagami responded before taking Naruto's hand. A grin of his own on his face. Naruto and Kagami were both the best of friends and most bitter of rivals. Their friendly rivalry was often compared to Hashirama's and Madara's and most onlookers thought the two could one day surpass their parents. A majority of their rivalry stemmed from the fact that they were 2 of the 3 best students in the class. The third wore a pair of black shinobi sandals, shin and forearm guards and a black jumpsuit with the Konoha symbol on the back. He had light skin, spiky brown hair and dark eyes. This boy was the prodigy of the Sarutobi clan and son of Sasuke Sarutobi. His name was Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hiruzen was loud and unwilling to take anything seriously, but Naruto could tell that he was analyzing everything anyone did. Hashirama walked to the front of the room and immediately everyone sat down and their eyes were turned to the Shinobi no Kami. Thank you boys and girls, or I should be saying, thank you fellow Shinobi and Kunoichi. Entrusted in you is the future of Konoha. It is up to each and every one of you to protect the civilians, the village and each other, Hashirama said. All the Genin's hearts became a little more heavy. They knew were strong enough to protect what they cared about. Now, it is time for you to officially become Shinobi and Kunoichi of Konohagakure no Sato. Hashirama said before pulling out a clipboard that showed the teams of all 9 students. Team 1 will consist of Gekko Hyuga, Kagami Uchiha and Karifuda Aburame. It will be led by Kama Hatake, Hashirama announced. Naruto nodded in understanding. The team would be a seek and destroy team, as Gekko and Karifuda would find the target and immobilize them with Juken or the Aburame bugs before Kagami destroyed the target with his Kaden Jutsu or Kenjutsu. Hashirama continued. Team 3 will consist of Shikanohara, Inoshishi Yamanaka and Chocho Akamichi. It will be led by Kosuke Sarutobi. Naruto nodded once more. This, Ino Shika Cho, formation, would be great for trapping and capturing prisoners and enemies. Finally, Team 7 will consist of Naruto Senju, Bawako Hayashi and Hiruzen Sarutobi. It will be led by Tobirama Senju, Hashirama said. Now Naruto was surprised. Oji-san never told him that he was going to become a teacher, let alone his teacher. In a puff of smoke appeared a man with long brown hair tied into a ponytail. He wore a pair of black Anbu pants and a Chunin vest with no shirt underneath. Team 3, meet at Training Ground 11 in 10 minutes, Kosuke ordered before disappearing in another puff of smoke. Shika, Inoshishi and Hako all looked at each other before jumping out of their seats and running out the door. All 6 genin waited for another 30 minutes when Naruto decided to throw a kunai. Once it impacted with the floor, there was a flash of light and Tobirama Senju appeared in all of his glory. Took you long enough, Tobirama mumbled. Team 7 meet at Training Ground 7 in 10 minutes, Tobirama ordered before turning to the remaining genin. Kama said to meet him on the roof, he was just too lazy to come down, Tobirama explained with a roll of his eyes. There was silence before Hiruzen, Bawako, Kagami, Gekko and Karifuda dashed out the door, hurrying toward their respective meeting points. Sayonara to San, Naruto yelled to his father before disappearing in a yellow flash. Hashirama sighed. He's becoming like you when you learned that trick. When Tobirama first created the Hiraishin, he had placed seals on every part of the village so he didn't have to walk anywhere much to Mito and Hashirama's ire. Quote, he acts more like you, Tobirama pointed out with a small laugh before disappearing in his own flash. Show-offs, Hashirama said with a sigh before walking out, eager to get some sleep before he had to go to the office. Naruto got to the field first and gave a sigh of nostalgia at the location his uncle had picked before he decided to lean against his favorite sakura tree to wait. He didn't have to wait long as Tobirama appeared in his own flash. You're still using the slower formula, Naruto pointed out with a smirk. He had refined the Hiraishin to a slightly faster formula which he had begun to use, but his uncle had been stubborn and wanted to use the formula he made. Tobirama didn't respond as he saw Bawako and Hiruzen jogging onto the ground. How did you guys get here so fast? Hiruzen asked with a shocked look. They had left before them, but Naruto and Tobirama got here first. A kunai appeared in Naruto's hand. Hiraishin. Lucky, Bawako mumbled under her breath. Sit down and tell me your likes, dislikes and dreams, Tobirama said as he took a seat. He didn't want to do this, but Hashirama insisted that all teams do this so that everyone could get to know each other better. Bawako raised her hand. My name is Bawako Hayashi. I like teriyaki, reading and helping people. I dislike bakas, arrogant people and sushi. My dream is to become a great medical nin. Tobirama nodded. He was well-rounded and he could tell by her chakra that she had great control. You're next, Suru, Tobirama ordered. Hiruzen sighed before jumping up and doing the nice guy pose. Sup. The name's Hiruzen Sarutobi. I like Hijiki, Kaden and Doden Jutsu, hanging out with Enma and cute girls. I dislike Narazuke, arrogant people and people who hate monkeys. My dream is to become Hokage. Naruto gave a small laugh. My name is Naruto Senju. I like ramen, kenjutsu although I have yet to find a good sword, training in my family. I dislike arrogant people, naive people and vegetables. My dream is to become Hokage. Yeah, like you're going to beat me, Hiruzen said with a roll of his eyes. You want to go, you stupid monkey? Naruto said, a fire igniting his eyes. Hiruzen punched his fist. I'll kick your ass right here and now. Fishcake. Tobirama clapped his hands, getting everyone's attention. Enough, it is time for the test to see if you become Genin. Test. Aren't we Genin already? Hiruzen yelled, expressing the confusion held by the entire group. Not yet, the academy test was to test your knowledge and basic skills. This test is to see if you have the ability to actually fight in the real world. Naruto nodded at the logic. What do we to do, Tobirama-sensei? Tobirama showed them 2 small silver bells. You are to try to steal these 2 bells from my waist. If you get a bell, you pass. If you do not, you go back to the academy. Hiruzen's eyes widened. But there are only 2 bells. Which means one of you is going back to the academy, Tobirama said with a sadistic smile. Oh ND, don't forget to come at me with the intent to kill, was Tobirama's final note before all 3 Genin in training disappeared, 2 in a burst of speed and 1 in a flash. Now we wait, Tobirama thought to high MSELF as he took out a kunai and began to sharpen it. Naruto was perched in one of the trees as he began to think about his options. I only have a speed advantage in the Hiraishin, but he will hands down beat me in Taijutsu. I may have a chance in ninjutsu, but I have no way to combat the Raijin no Ken. He closed his eyes and felt for everyone's signatures. Bawako was 2 trees away from him while Hiruzen was on the other side and seemed to be molding chakra. That meant he was about to attack. Tobirama Senju. Alone, as a Genin. Baka Suru, idiot monkey, Naruto mumbled when he saw Hiruzen jump out. He gave a sigh and was about to jump out when he realized something. It's a teamwork test, Naruto mumbled before disappearing in a burst of speed to find Bawako. You're foolish to try and ace me alone, Tobirama commented as he sharpened his kunai. I'll show that idiot Fishcake that I'm the one who'll be Hokage, Hiruzen said with a growl before forming 4 hand seals. He bit his thumb, causing it to bleed before grinning. Besides, who said I was alone? Hiruzen slammed his palm onto the floor and there was a large puff of smoke. Meet Enma, my partner. Enma's body and tail is covered by white fur which protrude from his sleeves and pants, and he had long unkempt white hair that reached into his back. He wore a black suit with mesh armor underneath, over which he wore a sleeveless kimono shirt with white fur trimmings and markings reminiscent of tiger stripes on it, which is held closed by a red sash. What do you want, Suru? I was in the middle of trying to ask Bonton out on a date. Enma complained. Hiruzen pointed at the man in front of them. I need your help to fight Tobirama Senju. All right, Henge. Kongonyoi. Transformation. Adamantine staff. Enma yelled. There was a small puff of smoke before the summoned creature turned into a black bow staff with gold tips. Impressive, a powerful personal summon at your age, Tobirama commented before launching himself at Hiruzen with a water whip in hand. Hiruzen quickly spun the bow in front of him, creating a shield with the spinning black weapon. Tobirama scowled before creating a single hand seal. Sweden. Sweryuden. Water release. Water dragon bullet. A giant dragon made of water shimmered into existence and flew at Hiruzen with great speed. Hiruzen planted Enma into the ground before flashing through his own seals. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet. Hiruzen yelled before spewing a huge flame dragon at Tobirama. The dragons met and cancelled each other out, enveloping the field in steam. Fuden. Datapa. Wind release. Great breakthrough. A huge gust of wind ripped through the field, blowing away the steam. Standing there in their full glory was Naruto Senju and Bawako Hayashi. 2 kunais in each of Naruto's hands and Bawako's tanto in hers. Now Bawako, Naruto ordered. Chakra burst from Bawako's body before she slammed her palm on the ground. Room. Around them, ASPH. Aerial barrier appeared around them that encompassed the entire training field. Before Tobirama could figure out what it did, Bawako made an overhead slice with her tanto. A large beam of energy flew from her knife and struck Tobirama, sending him flying to the other side of the field. Hiruzen turned toward Naruto and Bawako with a look that screamed, "Are you crazy? What are you doing? This is every man for himself." Naruto shook his head. "It's a teamwork test. We need to work together to beat him." Hiruzen paused and stared into Naruto's eyes, looking for deceit before sighing. "Fine. Ey turned around to see Tobirama flying toward them once more, the Raijin no Ken in hand. "Bawako," Naruto ordered once more. "Takuto." Bawako yelled before thrusting a hand out. Tobirama instantly stopped moving, hovering mid-air in Bawako's invisible grasp. Naruto slammed his hand on the floor. Kongo Fusa. Adamantine ceiling chains. A bunch of golden chains flew from the floor, flying toward Tobirama and restraining him in their grasps. Tobirama struggled against the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, but it was useless against their might. Like a perfect team, Naruto and Hiruzen jumped back, each flipping through their own hand seals. Naruto finished first and blew out a tsunami of fire that covered the field from end to end. Kaden. Goka Mekaiaku. Fire release. Great fire annihilation. Hiruzen finished and slammed a hand to the floor. Doden. Doryuden. Earth release. Earth dragon bullet. A dragon appeared from the ground and fired 5 mud balls from its mouth before flying toward Tobirama. The mud balls and the dragon flew through the wave of fire, igniting themselves before impacting with Tobirama. The Senju flew through the air and slammed into a tree, dissolving into water. "What? I've been fighting a Mizu Bunshin this entire time." Hiruzen yelled with shock. Naruto on the other hand was thinking, a Mizu Bunshin is 1/10 the strength of the original. I still have a lot of work until I'm as strong as him and Two-san. Tobirama appeared in a flash and began clapping his hands. "Congratulations, you managed to defeat my clone. Do we pass?" Naruto asked his white-haired relative. Tobirama sighed. "You didn't get the bells, but you did defeat my clone and work together." He then gave them a genuine smile. "So yes, you pass." "Yes." Team 7 cheered as they high-fived, and for Hat second there was no rivalry or insecurity. They were a team, each having each other's back in a battle. Hiruzen turned to his female teammate. "Bawako, what was that ability?" "I was born the Able. To create an area around me where I can control the objects within it. I call it Room," Bawako explains as she activated Room. A blue force field surrounded her hand before she turned it off. 2. Barama also realized something when he saw Bawako's hidden ability. "Naruto, how did you know Madara's signature move?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Well," Naruto stepped outside of the Senju compound and sighed. His parents had deemed it necessary to invite every one person they had ever met to Naruto's 12th birthday. He had felt suffocated with the attention, so he had decided to leave and go to his favorite spot on the compound, the tree that stood over the lake. He appeared in a flash only to be surprised when there was someone else there. He was a light-skinned man with spiky black hair that went down to his waist. He wore a crimson armor similar to Naruto's father's, but the large gunbai going across his back distinguished them. The man turned around, revealing his blood-red eyes. "So you're Hashirama Baka's kid?" Naruto stared right back, not even flinching. "My name is Naruto." The man turned away, looking once more at the moon's reflection over the lake. "I know who you are. My kid said you're the only one who can give him a challenge." Naruto smirked. "He's the only one that stands a chance against me." The man gave a chuckle. "I like you, you've got backbone. Why? Or more like your father and his brother had a love child instead." Naruto gave a smirk but said nothing. He knew exactly who this man was. He was the only man in the village that could make fun of his father and uncle and get away with it. "I heard it's your birthday," the man said, breaking Naruto from his thoughts. Naruto nodded. The man sighed. "I'm only going to do this once." He made a single horse sign. "Kaden. Goka Mekaiaku. Fire release. Great fire annihilation." He took in a deep breath before blowing out a wave of crimson flames that briefly caused the lake to glow like blood. "Your turn," the man said. Naruto nodded and made his own horse seal. "Kaden. Goka Mekyaku. Fire release. Great fire annihilation. He took a deep breath and blew out his own flames, but they were only about half as large as the man's. The man looked surprised for a second. Not bad, for a beginner. Naruto rolled his eyes, causing the man to give one more laugh before standing up. Oh, and don't forget to kick my kid's ass a few times. He needs to get his head out of the clouds, he said before standing up and disappearing in a vortex, leaving only Naruto and the moon to think about what just happened. So Madara Uchiha, the Bishamon god of war, decided to give you, the son of his greatest rival, the secret to his signature technique, Bawako asked. Hiruzen shook his head and gave a small laugh. He's a crazy bastard. Tobirama laughed. Come, let's get lunch, my treat. Ramen. Barbecue. Naruto and Hiruzen screamed at the same time. They turned to glare at each other, lightning sparking between their eyes. Naruto's eyes glowed with fire. There's only one way to settle this. Hiruzen nodded with complete concentration. Right. Jan Ken Pon. Naruto threw kunai at a post, warping to it before warping back and throwing another kunai. His teammates were bored as well. Hiruzen spun a bow lazily in his hands while Bawako half-heartedly practiced slicing invisible enemies with her tanto. This continued for a while until Tobirama appeared in a flash with his usual stern expression. Oji-san, where were you? Naruto asked his fellow Senju. Tobirama threw Hiruzen a small scroll with the letter C on it. I got us a mission. Hiruzen cracked the seal and read the scroll quickly. Delivering a scroll to the leader of a village. Cool. He handed Naruto and Bawako the scroll, who read it as well. They were to deliver a scroll to Musashi Miyamoto, the leader of Tetsu no Kuni. Sweet. Tetsu no Kuni makes the best swords. Naruto cheered, a bright grin on his face. This is very important. NT. Bawako pointed out with a serious expression. Tetsu no Kuni was a well-known land with a military power equal to almost all of the other shinobi villages. Between their chakra-enhanced armor, light-weight but powerful weapons and ability to attack a shinobi before he could even finish his hand seals, they were a force to be reckoned with. Tobirama nodded. Yes, which is why we must leave immediately. All three members of Team 7, noticing the seriousness in their leader's voice, nodded in unison. Hi. Team 7 had traveled for a good 5 or 6 days when they finally reached Tetsu no Kuni, and to either were impressed was an understatement. The three wolves were incredibly large and imposing. Naruto instantly knew that no army would be able to lay siege to them without losing tremendous casualties. After all, the temperature was so cold that any invading frost would either die from hypothermia or be immobilized to the point that a small force could defeat them. Not to mention the lack of food and high, icy, sloped walls of the mountain that made them easy to defend but almost impossible to scale. They entered the headquarters of the samurai with caution, only to be met by 2 samurai guards. Each wore heavy, segmented plate armor that covers the shoulders, chest, upper back, lower sides, and thighs. They also wore gauntlets, shin guards, helmets and face masks that Naruto guessed was designed to act like respirators to combat poison regularly used by shinobi. They were intimidating, and Naruto was ready to jump back and flip through some hand seals at a moment's notice. After all, a twitch from these men and he could have a slice through his stomach. Tobirama stepped forward. Stand down. We are here under orders of the Hokage to deliver a message to you, General. The samurai looked at each other for a moment and said something before turning to Team 7 once more. Miyamoto Dono will see you. Hidden radios, Naruto thought to himself as he walked through the long hallways. They were grand, with arched ceilings, wooden walls and tall pillars that reached to the ceiling. On the walls were beautiful paintings, marvelous mounted katanas and delicate calligraphy that all seemed matched perfectly. But the final doorway at the end of the hall was basic, a simple sliding paper door on a plain oak mount. Tobirama hesitantly opened the door to reveal the leader of Tetsu no Kuni in all his glory. The man sat in seiza in front of a small table with a calligraphy pen in hand. He was tall with long brown hair tied back into a ponytail and brown eyes that twinkled with whimsy. He wore a dark blue kimono with the image of a dancing crane. He sat dignified but with a slight spring, like there was a hidden child within him. The man looked at them and smiled. Welcome. Tobirama and team bowed to the man before them. Thank you for letting us into your country, Miyamoto-sama. No need for formalities, Tobirama-san, Musashi said while gesturing to the seats on the other side of the table. Carefully the 4 members of the team lowered themselves onto the cushions before relaxing slightly due to finally sitting down for the first time in almost a week. Who are you, young ones? Musashi asked the genin. Bawako bowed her head in respect. Hello Miyamoto-sama, my name is Bawako Hayashi. Hiruzen raised a peace sign. Hiruzen Sarutobi. Naruto bowed slightly. Hello, my name is Naruto Senju. Musashi gave a small chuckle. Ah, Hashirama's son. Naruto's jaw dropped in shock. You know my father. Yes, even a samurai know of the Shinobi no Kami, god of shinobi. Musashi said with a smile. Tobirama reached into his pouch and pulled out a scroll. Our mission was to give you this scroll, Musashi-san. Your brother wishes for increased shipments of chakra metal to Konohagakure no Sato. Musashi said after reading the scroll quickly. He picked up his calligraphy pen and signed his name elegantly before stamping it with his seal. He then handed the scroll to Bawako, who opened her hands in surprise. Done. Arigato Musashi-sama, she said. Usually trading between lands took a while as the leaders often had to go over the message to make sure there was no secret loopholes. I would stay here for another week if I were you. There's a storm coming and anyone exposed will freeze. Musashi advised. Thank you, Tobirama said as he stood up. The group was about to walk out when Naruto remembered something. Musashi-sama, do you know of a swordsmith that can make me a quality blade? He asked the greatest samurai in the world. Musashi paused and ced a hand to his chin in thought before sighing when he realized the answer. My best friend and maker of my own swords is the greatest swordsmith to ever grace Tetsu no Kuni. He is retired, but perhaps. What is his name? Naruto asked. Guro Masamune, Musashi said. Tobirama's eyes widened in surprise. Masamune. Bawako was just as surprised. The Masamune. The Toshin, god of the sword. Yes, you will find him right outside of the Suiro. Musashi said with a smile, although he seemed slightly pained. Thank you Musashi-sama, we will leave you now, Naruto said before standing up with his team. Musashi nodded and gestured to the table before him. Be sure to stop by sometime and have some tea. Of course, Naruto said with a smile before following his team out the door. Naruto trudged through the snow, activating the heat seals on his armor as well as coating his skin in chakra so he wouldn't freeze. He had been walking through the snow for 20 minutes and couldn't seem to fin. The home of Guro Masamune through the sea of white snow. Suddenly he facepalmed. Oh wait, I'm a censor. The Senju closed his eyes and searched for the signatures around him. Behind him he felt a few hundred signatures from the Suiro, but a dozen meters to his right, he sensed a single source of chakra. He focused chakra to his feet and jumped up, landing on top of the snow before dashing toward the source, eager to get out of the cold. Once he reached the small cabin, he knocked against the thick wood door. The cabin was small and humble, but Naruto could tell that the wood was thick and most likely reinforced with steel or something of the like. Behind the cabin, however, a small forge that looked to be on from the smoke and heat radiating off of it. There was no response until Naruto heard a sigh. The door opened a crack to reveal a middle-aged man with long white hair tied into a ponytail. He wore a simple gray robe and in his hand was a katana that he used as a cane. Boy, do you know how cold it is out there? The man said with a scowl. Naruto nodded. Yes sir. The man said nothing before opening the door more and walking inside. Come in, Senju-kun. How did you know? Naruto asked as he walked in. The man gave a small laugh. Clan symbol on armor. Naruto scratched his head sheepishly as he took a seat at the small table while the man walked to a small cabinet beside the mantel and pulled out a black bottle. Sake or tea? He asked, gesturing to the bottle then to the tea kettle. Whatever you are having, Naruto said politely. The man smiled and pulled out the bottle and 2 saucers. Sake it is. So why have you come out in this weather to find little ol' me? The man asked while taking a sip from his saucer. Naruto placed his hands on the floor and bowed his head. Naruto Senju humbly request that you make me a fine sword. The man stopped mid-drink and placed his saucer down. No. Naruto flinched but nodded when he saw the pained expression on Masamune's face. Hi. The man looked at the boy before him before sighing. Why do you wish for one of my swords? I wish to one day be strong enough to protect the ones important to me. I want to be able to hold a sword in my hand and stare down the challenges that I will one day face with strength. Naruto said honestly. So Masamune-sama, please craft my sword, Naruto pleaded, his head bowed so low it almost touched the floor. Masamune looked straight into Naruto's blue eyes before sighing. It will be done. Naruto's eyes lit up and he was about to thank the man when Masamune raised a hand to stop him. You don't need to thank your friends. Also, don't call me Masamune-sama, it makes me feel old. Whatever you say, Guro-san, Naruto said with a shake of his head. It felt weird being so informal with a legend like Guro Masamune. Masamune poured himself some more sake. Now tell me about yourself. How is it like to be the son of the Shodime Hokage? Naruto's face darkened for a moment before it returned to its usual joyful radiance. It's great, but my parents are always working. My dad is the Hokage and my mom with her job as the representative from Uzushiogakure. So I'm usually alone, training and sparring with my rival and uncle. Guro frowned for a moment before sighing. It was a shame Naruto didn't have his parents around that much, but Guro could tell he was a good kid and would grow up strong regardless. Masamune lifted his sake. Let us drink to a new friendship. Naruto grinned as he lifted his own. Cheers. They both downed their drinks and began to laugh. Guro was right, it was the start of a beautiful friendship. Naruto woke up the next day in his bed, his clothes hanging off his body and a splitting headache. He didn't remember much from last night except for Guro walking him back to his inn late in the morning and trying to do the knife game with one of the special kunai Guro made for him. They were specially made for him, with a heavy kunai blade with 2 prongs. They had a slightly thicker hand in which he planned to write his revised Hiraishin seal. Although if his new seal worked, he may not need the Hiraishin for much longer. There was a loud knock at the door. Naruto, get up. Naruto grabbed his head in pain. Goddamn loud noises. You want loud? I can get loud. Bawako screamed at the top of her lungs before kicking open the door. Naruto's head fell. She like someone was hammering a nail into it. Goddammit, Bawako. Bawako blushed darker than Naruto's hair. Naruto. Naruto groaned before looking down, noticing for the first time his lack of pants in his morning issue. Goddammit. Naruto mumbled, too tired to blush or hide it. Bawako, however, was blushing enough for the both of them as she looked him up and down. I'll leave now. Yes, you should, Naruto said honestly. Bawako fumbled with the doorknob for a second before quickly exiting the room, going off to take a cold shower. Naruto sighed before grabbing his armor and new kunais. Let's get this over with. Naruto groaned as he walked into the training room. Tetsu no Kuni had massive training rooms as the brutal weather and incline of the mountains caused training outside to be almost impossible. Someone turn off the light, Naruto mumbled as he stood next to Bawako. The white-haired girl blushed red and refused to look at him while Hiruzen gave him the, "What happened?" look. Naruto shrugged. He didn't know why she was overreacting. Tobirama grinned sadistically. That was just what I was planning. Team 7 knew that whenever Tobirama grinned, they were going to get hurt. Shit. Tobirama made a single Tora hand seal and the last thing Naruto would see was his uncle's sadistic smile. Kokuonyo no Jutsu, bringer of darkness technique. Instantly Naruto's eyesight was robbed of him and he was left in the darkness. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain to his stomach and he flew backwards, hitting the wall. Damn it! He cursed before standing up. Instantly he was struck in the face, kicked in the stomach and punched in the jewels. Not cool, Oji-san, Naruto said as he fell to his knees only to be kicked in the head again, resulting in him striking his friend the wall once more. How do I do this? He heard his teammates being struck and hitting against walls as well, so he knew he wasn't alone. He heard, that's it, I can enhance my other senses with chakra and use my sensing ability to find where Oji-san is, Naruto thought as he did just that. Suddenly, it was as if someone turned on the light. He sensed a boy his age to his left with a chakra pool about half as big as his own, which he knew must be Hiruzen. The only genin with pools even close to Naruto's was Kagami and Hiruzen, but he outclassed both of them due to his Uzumaki blood. To his right was a L with a smaller pool than Sarutobi, but Naruto could feel the control she had over her chakra by the way it coursed through her body. In front of Naruto was a man with a chakra pool the size of a cage. It was almost oppressive, but it wasn't even close to Naruto's dad, who had incredibly dense chakra just like Naruto. Naruto felt the man tense and shoot forward to strike Naruto in stomach, only for Naruto to parry the strike and bring his elbow up to block the one after it. Naruto parried both strikes and spun around, striking Tobirama in the chest with an open palm strike infused with chakra. At the last moment, he diffused the chakra, causing Tobirama to fly backwards with the superhuman hit. "How did you do that?" he heard Bawako ask as she slid into her fighting stance, ready to defend herself. "Listen to his footsteps," Naruto hinted as he blurred forward to strike his uncle. He twisted and placed his right leg on the floor, twisting his body so he did a full side somersault and tried to land with his left leg on Tobirama's head, only for the cage-level shinobi to no longer be there. Naruto scowled before landing, placing his left hand on the floor, and began swinging his legs in a lightning chakra-enhanced whirlwind. His legs sparked with deadly electricity and spun with unbelievable speed due to the lightning chakra stimulating his synapses. "Looks like you finally understand the basis of nintaijutsu," Tobirama said with a little pride. Nintaijutsu was a style of shinobi combat that not many knew how to use besides the Raikages of Kumogakur. So to see any 13-year-old much less his nephew using nintaijutsu at the age of 13, he was rather impressed. Naruto said nothing and instead landed in a Muay Thai stance. Kazakiri, wind cutter. His legs glowed with chakra as they were coated with wind chakra, and Naruto disappeared. If it wasn't for Tobirama's battle-hardened instincts, he would be missing a head. Instead, Naruto's kick continued until it struck the floor, leaving a 5-foot-long slice in the floor. "How many more skills can that damn Senju have?" Hiruzen mumbled as he felt the shifts in the air and vibrations in the ground from Naruto's onslaught of Tobirama. His father is the shinobi no kami, the only person besides Madara Uchiha to have mastered every known form of shinobi combat. "I wouldn't be surprised if one day Naruto surpassed them," Bawako mused. If Hiruzen could see, he would have saw Bawako blushing at the thought of a grown-up Naruto. Hiruzen was about to ask something when Naruto interrupted him. "Come on, you Bakasuru, get in on the action." Fire literally ignited on the Sarutobi's body as he leapt into the brawl, eager to defeat his sensei and kick Naruto's ass in the process. Bawako watched this and just shook her head. "Boys, shish." He then placed her hands in the ram sign and focused her chakra. Kai. It would take her genius teammates another half an hour to realize that they were in a genjutsu. Genius. In combat, not in common sense. The next day, Naruto was in one of the samurai training grounds striking a post. It was early in the morning and the rest of his team was still asleep. Tobirama had went out drinking the night before. Hiruzen had stayed up late the night before so he could make a technique cooler than that stupid nintaijutsu, and Bawako had decided to read late into the night. In Naruto's hand was a gift from Musashi, a simple baken made of the wood of a 1,000-year-old tree. He had told the man that Masamune was going to make him a sword, so the general of Tetsu no Kuni had decided to give Naruto his personal baken so Naruto could create a style that would fit him. Naruto didn't want to accept the gift, but Musashi had insisted on the grounds that once Naruto became a master swordsman, he would come back to Tetsu no Kuni to face Musashi in a spar. Naruto swung the baken diagonally, striking the post with enough force to dent the dummy before twisting the blade. He sliced, striking the dummy in the ribcage with enough force to crack the wood. If you had used a real sword, you would have bisected him. Naruto turned around to see a familiar face. Guro Masamune stood behind him with a smile and an odd bag on his back. "Guro-san, you look as old as ever," Naruto said with a big goofy grin as he gestured at Goro's long white hair with his baken. "Ah, Naruto-kun, I've never seen a fac that has looked more like an elephant's ass," Masamune said with a smile of his own. "What's up, old man?" Naruto asked the man before him. "I finished your order," Masamune said. He slung off the bag from his back and unzipped it, revealing 3 large objects wrapped in cloth. "3?" Naruto asked as he expected only one blade. He hadn't planned to use 3 weapons, but he would incorporate them into the style. A real warrior was not restricted to a single way of battle. They are my 3 greatest works. I began to work yesterday and I poured my heart into the metal, thus 3 blades came out, Masamune said. He reached down and pulled out a sword and unwrapped it. Shisui, clear autumn water, he said. Shisui's blade was black with a distinct red hamon, and its Suba hand guard has flower-like edges. Its red hamon gave it the appearance of a saw or sharp teeth. It had no accessories on the hilt, being wrapped with black silk. Its Kashira, Suba and Kojiri end cap are golden, and the sheath was black, decorated with dark red circles split in even thirds. Naruto looked at the blade in awe before collecting himself and sheathing the blade, sliding the blade into his obi belt. Masamune pulled out his next creation and unwrapped it to show Naruto. Wado Ikimonji, he said. Wado Ikimonji's sheath and hilt was as white as freshly fallen snow, but also as dangerous as a blizzard. Naruto drew the katana, revealing a blade so pristine and clear, it was almost see-through like a shard of glass. Shisui and Wado Ikimonji looked like opposites, one was as black and mysterious as the dark Saint night sky while the other was as bright and vibrant as the sun. Masamune finally took out the last blade, revealing it much larger than both Wado Ikimonji and Shisui, as well as taller than both Masamune and Naruto by a few inches. And my greatest work, Yuru Knight, Masamune introduced. As soon as Naruto cast his eyes upon it, he knew Masamune was right. It was a masterpiece. Yuru is an ornate, decorated single-edged long sword with a slight curve at the end of the blade. It was about 6 feet long and heavy for a sword, but Naruto could lift it. On the hilt of this blade is a cross guard, the bars between the blade and the hilt are much longer than average. The blade itself was pitch black with a very strong sheen, making it look like a mirror that reflected your deepest fears, or your death. I don't know what to say, Naruto mumbled. What can you say after being given 3 of the greatest blades in existence? Thank you would be a good start, Guro said with a big grin. Naruto bowed to the man. Thank you, Guro-san, I owe you much. Guro placed a hand on the Senju's shoulder. You owe me only your friendship, Naruto-kun. I will leave you here to train, you have much to PR. Actus, Guro said as he turned around and walked out of the room. Yane, see ya, he said over his shoulder with a wave of his hand. Yane, Naruto said. He lifted Yuru with both hands and smiled as he charged it with chakra. Time seemed to stop for a moment as he swung the blade as much strength as he could muster, intent on destroying his target. Kokudo Isen. Black blade single flash. ABL. Ak blade of compressed air flew from the midnight blade before flying and cutting straight through the dummy and the wall behind it. Naruto looked at Yuru with surprise before grinning. Naruto Senju Uzumaki, master of Kenjutsu. It has a ring to it. Mokuden Haijutsu. Jukai Koden. Wood release secret technique. Nativity of a world of trees. Hashirama Senju yelled as he formed the last snake seal. Around him sprouted hundreds of trees eager to pierce their victims with their sharpened branches. Their current victim was a 14-year-old boy wearing black Senju armor. He was tall, about as tall as his father, and slim, although his body held the physical strength the Senju clan was known for. He had spiky red and gold hair that had begun to grow out a bit, while his blue eyes glowed with ferocity, genius, insanity and determination. He wore black Anbu issue pants and black shinobi sandals. At his waist were 2 beautiful katanas, one black as the night sky while the other was whiter than a Hyuga's eyes. They were both dangerous on their own, but together, they were a threat of a higher magnitude. But it was the sword in his hand that was the most interesting. It was large, as tall as the bow. And had a long black blade that curved a bit at the end. The guard was long and decorated with jewels, making the blade look like large black cross. I hate you too, San. The boy yelled as he gone to slice through the branches, but they were coming too fast. The boy scowled before sheathing Yuru and placing a hand on each of his katana and charged each blade with chakra. Notoryu Ii. Rashomon. He yelled before drawing the blades simultaneously with unbelievable speed. 2 blades of air flew through the air from the rapid II draw, slicing through a good 15 trees with ease. However, more Ust took their place as Hashirama kept pushing chakra into the technique, an entertained smirk on the Hokage's face. Naruto sheathed his sword and placed his hands before him in a triangle formation. A black kanji formed in front of him before glowing bright orange as if it had just been armed. In less than a second, the floating kanji expanded at least 50 times until it was almost unreadable when it launched forward, attaching itself to the ground in front of the trees. Suddenly the kanji glowed white before exploding with enough force to level the trees. Senso Fuinjutsu. Bakuhatsu. War Fuinjutsu. Explosion. Naruto yelled. The kanji on the floor glowed red before exploding with a force equivalent to 50 explosive tags. Naruto charged his body with lightning before disappearing, escaping He Blast Zone in a nintaijutsu enhanced burst of speed. There was silence as Naruto floated over the ruins of the training ground. He had recently created a seal that reversed the flow of gravity by acting in the force and vectors of gravitational pull and pushed out in a form that was either equal to or greater than the push of gravity. Thus floating and flying was now a reality for the young Senju. It was reasons like this that the Uzumaki clan was one of the 3 most feared clans in the world. Everything was peaceful for a moment when suddenly a single tree sprouted from the ground. Then another. Then another. Suddenly another forest began to shoot from the ground in the place of the first one, causing Naruto to have to fly upwards until he was a good 20 feet above the forest. Why won't these things die? Naruto mumbled under his breath as he flipped through some of his favorite hand signs, a seal hidden in his body glowing bright white at the same time. Kuden. Goka Mekyaku. Hell Release. Great Fire Annihilation. He yelled before blowing out a tidal wave of white flames that washed over the entire training ground. It blanketed everything, baptizing the earth with the flames of hell that burned so bright. There was a sense of beauty and sacredness that was beyond anything that had even been seen. Anything in its path was destroyed, leaving the training ground bare and burnt in a condition that no trees would grow, for a long time. After a moment, Hashirama appeared from the ground as he had hid using the Doden, Mogaragakure no Jutsu, Earth Release, hiding Lee K-Mole and rubbed the sweat from his forehead. Even underground, those flames were hot. That's the 4th training ground this month. Kinda amazing. Hashirama pointed out with a hint of awe in his voice. That was the kind of destruction only Madara and Izuna could do with Kaden Jutsu, and now Naruto could replicate it at 13. That's a bit incredible even for someone of the likes of Hashirama. Naruto shook his head as he stared at the blackened training ground. Fuinjutsu is thing that's amazing. Not me or the Kuden. 6 months ago, Naruto was sitting at his desk in his room. His room wasn't big and was made almost entirely out of wood. The entire compound was in fact made of wood, as his father had made all 100 rooms using the versatile power of Mokuden. Naruto's desk was cluttered with rumpled up pieces of paper and spilled ink while Naruto's chin rested upon his folded hands. Why was Naruto in such a slump? In his latest spar with Kagami Uchiha, his rival had shown him the power of Mangekyo Sharingan, or at least the power he had unlocked. Yes, at 13 years old Kagami Uchiha had unlocked the Mangekyo Sharingan when he was forced to watch the death of his family over and over when caught in his uncle's Tsukiyomi. Ergo when Naruto and Kagami fought, Kagami showed him the power of Amaterasu. As such, Naruto's ass was thoroughly kicked by the Uchiha. Thus he sat at his desk trying to come up with a way to retake his title as the stronger of the two of them. The Fuka-Hoin fire sealing method worked, but it wasn't very practical. The only thing he had that was faster than Amaterasu was the Hiraishonen. And his special project. There was nothing Naruto had that could block the black flames, and water couldn't put them out. He couldn't wait for the flames to snuff themselves out, as the flames could burn for 7 days and 7 nights without requiring sustenance. The only thing the young Senju could think of was to fight fire with fire, but he didn't have fire strong enough to compete with Amaterasu. Hey Naruto-kun, whatcha up to? Naruto turned around to see his mother in the doorway. His mother looked as young as ever due to her Uzumaki genes, and her blue eyes kept moving around almost hyperactively until she looked at what was on his desk. Whatcha working on? She asked, her Uzumaki verbal tick prominent. For some reason, it seemed to have skipped Naruto, but it was better than screaming Dadbeo or something stupid like that at the end of every sentence. Naruto lifted the paper he was working on to show her. I'm trying to find a way to combat Amaterasu, the Mangekyo technique. Your father had this same problem till he realized that Mokuden wood reinforced with nature chakra was unburnable, Mito said. Naruto nodded in understanding, but sadly, he had neither Mokuden or Senjutsu. Whatcha have so far, she said as she looked over his ideas with a critical eye. This wasn't Mito the mother anymore. No, this was Mito Uzumaki, the only female level 10 seal ma. Stern woman who sealed the Kyuubi into herself to save her village and husband. I can only dodge it with the Hiraishin, but it's hard if I don't have any close seals. I can't block it like Toussaint. And sealing it isn't practical in the middle of a fast-paced battle, even for me, Naruto explained with a sigh. So whatcha thinking? Mito asked as she corrected some of his mistakes. Naruto may be equal in sealing, but even he made careless errors every now and then. Naruto took out another piece of paper before drawing something very careful. What if I could somehow compress my Kaden chakra, so it could become hot enough to combat Amaterasu? Mito scratched her chin for a moment. But if you compress your flames they will become smaller, meaning you will need to add more chakra. What if I add an amplifying seal on it? Naruto asked as he added a few seals to the design, including an amplifying seal and a compression seal. That could work, Mito mumbled. She pulled out her own brush and added a few kanji to the design. After about an hour of work and a lot of effort from mother and son, the seal was done. It looked very much like the kanji for fire, but was in fact made of hundreds of smaller seals drawn carefully by the two seal masters. It was designed to push chakra expelled for a Kaden technique through its dozens of compression seals like water going through narrower tubes until it was pressurized before it was increased by another few dozen amplifying seals. Once you added a few fireproof seals, safeguards so it didn't explode, and finally a re-entry so the chakra went back into his system, you've suddenly got a level 10 combat seal. Naruto placed it on his shoulder and pushed chakra into the piece of paper. The paper glowed red and Naruto went in pain as the design tattooed itself onto his skin as well as began affecting his chakra system. Naruto lifted his palm and focused. A small ball of fire burst to life in his palm, but this time it was different. This time, the ball of flame was as white as the sun. If he didn't know better, Naruto would have thought they were the flames of the sun. Incredible, Mito mumbled under her breath. With Fuinjutsu alone, they were able to augment normal ninjutsu to the point it would compete with one of the ultimate techniques of one of the strongest Kekkei Genkei in the world. What are you going to call it? Mito asked her son as he stared at the flame almost hypnotically. Naruto grinned, his eyes glowing in the white flame's light. If Amaterasu is the flames of heaven, then this will be Kuden, the flames of hell. Yo Oji-san, Naruto yelled as he appeared using his uncle's favorite jutsu, the Hiraishin. Team 7 hadn't changed much in appearance over the past year, but in personality and skill, they were almost a different team. Bawako had begun to see the world differently, seeing less black and white and more varying shades of gray. A majority of this spawned after she got her first K.I.L. when the team went on a mission to Nami no Kuni to destroy a few bandit camps 2 months ago. Hiruzen had grown up as well, maturing past his hyperactive stage and becoming more collected after Emna took him to see the Grand Monkey Sage. Naruto didn't know what about, but it had made Hiruzen less of an annoying little monkey, so it was good for him. Although the two powerhouses of the team would never admit it, Naruto and Hiruzen had become friends and rivals. In fact, Naruto, Kagami and Hiruzen had begun to be called different names by the villagers after the village watched a huge spar between the three prodigies of the era. Sarutobi Hiruzen, son of Sarutobi Sasuke and the Kojin no Konoha, fire god of Konoha. Kagami Uchiha, son of Madara Uchiha, nephew of Izuna Uchiha and Meo, Dark King. Naruto Senju Uzumaki, son of Hashirama Senju and Mito Uzumaki, nephew of Tobirama Senju and the Izanagi, Shinto god of heaven creation. But the biggest change in Team 7 was that Bawako and Hiruzen had begun to date. After a little push from Naruto, of course. Naruto was sitting on top of his father's head. The village had carved his father's head in the mountain behind Konohagakure no Sato, and Naruto had discovered it had one of the best views in the village. He had begun to spend vast amounts of time up here, reading, making seals, practicing kenjutsu katas and just thinking about the world and his future. No one knew where he went as he always left by Hiraishin and was unable to be tracked. Eventually the only way to alert him to come home was for Mito to activate one of the seal's S. He and her son shared that glowed when one user pushed chakra into it. Naruto closed his eyes, feeling the signatures of every person in Konoha. Over the last 6 months his uncle had been training him in his sensor ability to the point he didn't even need to place a finger on the floor to sense people within the range of 5 miles. The hundreds of civilians below had barely noticeable chakra pools, much of which was used to run the body. He felt the signatures of his family, his father's Biju-sized pool, his uncle's Hikage-sized pool, his mother's Jonin-level pool with added Biju, etc. He felt his fellow Genin's pool. Kurifuta's buzzed with life due to the lifeforms living in his body while Shika's was almost lethargic. Chocho and Inoshishi's were happy as they were most Lickle. Why eating chips and arranging flowers respectively. Gecko's was nervous, like something big was happening in his life. Kagami's pool was fluctuating, he was most likely trying to work on Tsukuyomi or Susanoo in the Uchiha training ground. Bawako's chakra was interesting, it was happy as she usually was but also unsure, as if she was debating with herself over something. Naruto frowned, there was someone not the village below. Naruto placed a finger to the ground to focus his ability, searching for one of his closest friends even though he would admit it. His eyes opened in shock. How did you find me? By checking just about everywhere else and crossing them off the list, Hiruzen said. He was in his off-duty clothes similar to Naruto and he had his arms behind his head. Then perhaps the better question is why are you here? Naruto asked, a little suspicious. Hiruzen gave a big sigh and looked up at the night sky. I need to talk to you about something. Naruto paused before moving over a bit, leaving a good spot next to him. Take a seat. Nice view. Hiruzen commented as he sat down. Naruto grinned. Why do you think I stay up here? So what's up? Naruto asked his friend. Hiruzen sighed and leaned back, staring at Konoha with a conflicted look his face. It's about Bawako. Naruto tensed, ready to take action. What's wrong? Is she okay? Hiruzen nodded. Yeah, she's fine, that's sort of the problem. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You want to hurt her? No, Hiruzen said before sighing once more. I think I'm in love with her, he admitted. Naruto's blue eyes lit up. That's awesome, you have to ask her out. But, Hiruzen began but Naruto cut him off. Tsuru, we're shinobi. There might not be a tomorrow for us so you shouldn't have regrets. Don't push it off and say, what if? No, if you love her, tell her. Naruto said. Hiruzen growled before grabbing his head as if he was in pain. I can't. She's in love with you. He yelled. Everything stopped for a second before Naruto gave the most intelligent response he could think of. What? Hiruzen sighed for the 4th time. Haven't you noticed how she always looks at you? How she blushes whenever you catch her? Naruto paused before he started giggling. Then laughing so hard tears began to fall from his eyes and his sides began to hurt. Why are you laughing? I'm serious. Hiruzen yelled, frustrated with his friend's antics. The reason Bawako blushes when she looks at me was because of what happened at Tetsu no Kuni, Naruto said when he stopped. He then went on to tell Hiruzen what happened. How he had passed out at Guro Masamune's house and how he woke up the next day with the biggest hangover ever. How Bawako began to slam on his door because Tobirama wanted them for practice. How Naruto told her to go away because of his headache and finally how she broke down his door, revealing him in his underwear with a little someone awake. So the reason she blushes when she looks at you is because she saw your kunai. Hiruzen said. His jaw dropped at the sheer unbelievability of the situation. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Yep, pretty much. Hiruzen sighed and shook his head. That is the funniest and stupidest thing I've ever heard. So yeah, you should ask her out. I'm not stopping you, Naruto encouraged. Hiruzen paused before nodding. I think I will. Naruto grinned mischievously. Maybe to get me out her mind, you should show her your kunai. Hiruzen swung at him with a kunai in hand but Naruto had already disappeared in a Hiraishin. Get back here you damn Senju. So Oji-san, what's the plan for today? Naruto asked his uncle. Tobirama clapped his hands. You will all be getting summoning contracts. Bawako and Naruto high-five in happiness. Yes. Hiruzen was a little less excited. Tobirama-sensei, I already have a summoning contract. Tobirama nodded. I know, which is why you and I will be working on Suiten Jutsu. So what do we do? We don't have contracts, Naruto asked. All you have to do is bite your thumb, form these hand seals and then slam your hand on the floor. Since you don't have contracts, the technique will teleport you to whatever animal you have an affinity to, Tobirama explained before forming 5 hand seals very slowly so that Naruto and Bawako could memorize them. What's your summoning animal, Tobirama-sensei? Bawako asked. Tobirama rolled up his sleeve to show a tattoo he had of a coiled dragon. I hold the sea monster summoning contract and I was gifted a summoning tattoo instead. Cool, Naruto whispered under his breath. Naruto bit his thumb causing it to bleed before doing the hand seals he saw. Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning technique, Naruto yelled as he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Where the hell am I? Naruto mumbled as he looked around in a daze. Once the smoke cleared, it was obvious he wasn't in Konoha anymore. He was surrounded by lush greenery, the sound of waterfalls and odd spires jutting out from what appeared to be a mountain. Who are you? Naruto whipped around to see 2 odd figures. One was a small toad with maroon skin and red markings. He had a scar over one of his eyes and as wearing a dark blue happy coat with the kanji for shrimp on the back. The other was a green toad with white hair styled in a mohawk. He wore a simple cloak and had a staff carried over his shoulder like a club. But the thing most noticeable about this toad was the fact he was walking on 2 legs. Who are you? Naruto asked with confusion. The toad with the scar scowled. That's my question, Squirt. If Naruto wasn't enraged, he would been surprised the toad could talk. Squirt, you're a foot tall. The toad reached behind him and pulled out a tanto. Why I oughta. The other toad put a hand up to block his friend. How did you get here? I tried the summoning jutsu and I ended up here, Naruto explained while gesturing around him. The 2 toads looked shocked before looking at each other. Although they said nothing, Naruto could tell a conversation was going on. The sage is gonna want to meet him, the toad with the knife said. The toad with a mohawk nodded and began walking. Follow us. Naruto hesitated before following behind the small toads. Can I ask one thing? You just did, the green toad said without turning around. Naruto frowned. Can I ask another? You just did, the toad said, although this time with a smile on his face. Naruto rolled his eyes and decided to just ask his question. Where am I? The green toad turned to him. Welcome to Myobokuzen, the mountain of bewilderment and home of the toads. After walking through the jungle for a while, the group of 3 finally reached the home of Gamamaru, the great toad sage. Only for him to be asleep. Wake up, you old geezer. Fukasaku yelled. Gamamaru was huge, many times bigger than Gamabunta and Fukasaku, and had wrinkled brown skin. His eyes were shut and he was wearing a professor's hat with tassels and an orb on top of it. He also wore a necklace with the Toad's village symbol for oil on it. He's old, Naruto said to Gamabunta, who nodded. Really old, the toad said as they watched Fukasaku try to wake the old toad by poking him with his stick. Finally, the toad awoke. What? Ogiji-sama, great honorable geezer, a boy summoned himself here, Fukasaku said. The old toad looked at Naruto Althaug. It was hard to tell since his eyes were squinted. Oh, what's his name? Naruto stepped forward and bowed. Hello Ogama Sennin, great toad sage, my name is Naruto Senju. Gamamaru's eyes briefly widened. Senju. Interesting. The toad sage stopped and scratched his chin. He may sign the contract. Really? You serious? Naruto, Fukasaku and Gamabunta said at the same time, eyes widened in surprise. What's such a big deal about it? Naruto asked the smaller toads. The other clans had summoners, so what was the fuss about? We've never had a summoner before, so you'll be the first toad summoner ever, Fukasaku explained. Perhaps when he's older, we'll teach him senjutsu, Gamamaru explained while stroking his chin. Fukasaku raised an eyebrow in surprise, which Naruto caught. What's that? Naruto asked the toad. Senjutsu is the process in which you combine your chakra with nature energy, making a new kind of chakra that is much stronger, Fukasaku explained. Naruto's eyes widened at the offer before facing the great toad sage once more. Thank you for the offer, Ogama Sennin, he said with a bow. Gamamaru chuckled. Please, call me Ogiji, everyone else does. Fukasaku and Gamabu. NTA will be your personal summons, so unless you wish to summon someone else, these two will be the ones that appear, the sage explained to Naruto, who bowed once more. Thank you Ogg-sama, he said. He great-toed sage yawned widely before closing his eyes. Good night. Instantly the old toad was asleep, snoring so loudly that the ground shook slightly. Fukasaku sighed. That old toad can never stay awake. Naruto turned to his partners. I guess we're stuck together. Whatever. Gamabunta grunted. I summon you guys if I need any help, Naruto said. Goodbye Naruto, Fukasaku said. See ya squirt, Gamabunta said with a wave of his webbed hand. Yane, Naruto said to his two new friends before disappearing in a flash. Weird kid, Fukasaku said as they watched their newest summoner disappear. Why? Yeah, but he's okay, Gamabunta pointed out as the two toads walked away to go eat dinner at Fukasaku's house. Shima was cooking and every toad knew, Shima was the best cook on the mountain. Naruto and Hashirama stood in the room as Mito took deep breaths and pushed. Once more, they were in the underground room which Naruto had made sure to strengthen with reinforcement seals and chakra-restricting seals. It was easier for the redhead this time as she knew what to expect, although that didn't help the agonizing pain at all. Damn it, Hashirama mumbled as he watched his wife in pain. He wanted to comfort her but knew better than to offer her his hand like last time. He still had trouble snapping his fingers after that day. Things were going according to plan when suddenly there was a burst of chakra. Chu-san, was that you? Naruto asked, although he already knew the answer. Hashirama was beginning to sweat. No, there was another burst of chakra, this one more powerful and more hate-ridden. Shit, the two Senju screamed as they rushed to their mother-wife. Hashirama lifted Mito's shirt, revealing the seal that Kyuubi, the once beautiful seal full of a dozen fail-safes and reinforcements, had been destroyed. This damn-tailed beast warped the seal the minute she pushed. Hashirama yelled. The Uzumaki Ryu. Senin Ain Fuin Uzumaki style, 1000-year eternal seal broke. Mito asked, surprise evident in her voice. The Senin Ain Fuin was the strongest seal known to the Uzumaki clan and was said to be based off the seal that held the Jubi, just not as strong. Naruto stared at the seal for a moment before snapping his tongue in anger. Damn it, I can't fix this seal. Hashirama grabbed his head in panic. The Kyuubi will get out if we don't do something. Naruto said nothing and instead quickly took off his armor. He took off his shirt, revealing his abs and the seals that littered his chest and arms. He took a deep breath before beginning to flip through seals with utmost concentration. Arg! Mito yelled as a contraction ripped through her. There was another wave of chakra, this one more dense than the others. Slowly a red cloak of chakra began to surround Mito and he. Our once bright blue eyes glowed a slitted crimson. Naruto, whatever you've got planned, hurry up, Hashirama urged. Naruto frantically finished the last few hand seals before clapping his hands together, releasing a burst of chakra larger than any of the Kyuubis. When he repeated his hands, he revealed that they were both glowing bright green. Naruto took a deep breath before he placed one hand on the ruined seal and the other on his own stomach. Amenami Nakanushi. Once the name of the supreme god in Shinto mythology was uttered, there was a burst of chakra much larger than before or any of the Kyuubis. Walls cracked as Naruto unleashed his power and used its oppressive force to push the Kyuubi into the new seal. The new seal looked like 4 Shishofuin, 4 symbol seals arranged in a square with the kanji for sky in the center. Arg! Mito screamed before releasing a sigh in relief as the Kyuubi's chakra receded from her completely. Naruto, what have you done? Hashirama asked in awe. His son had just sealed a biju inside of himself without any hesitation at all. Naruto placed a hand of his stomach and took a few deep breaths. I did it for my baby sister. Now let's finish this, Hashirama said as he placed a handful of medical chakra on his wife's stomach. Push, he ordered, and Mito pushed with all of her might. Despite the fact that a biju was just ripped from her, she pushed like her life depended on it. There was silence when a sound ripped through the air. Wah! Mito gave a tired laugh. So while you guys were saving the village, I was the one was saving the future of the Senju clan. Hashirama quickly wrapped the baby in a towel and wiped her face, revealing the same sparkling blue eyes as her mother and brother. Why doesn't any of my children have my eyes? Hashirama groaned, but he was smiling all the same. He handed her to Mito. What should we name her? Mito looked deep into her daughter's eyes and smiled just as she did with Naruto. Meet Tsunade Senju, she said with a smile. Naruto looked at his mother, who nodded and handed the small baby to Naruto. Naruto grinned widely when he saw Tsunade's blue eyes look into his. He lao. Get when Tsunade reached up and grabbed his cheeks with her chunky little fingers. Hi Soon, I'm your big brother. I'm sorry Ka-san, but I have training with the team today. Naruto apologized, but Mito shook her head and smiled. Take her with you, just be careful, Mito explained. She had to make a trip to Uzushiogakure and Tsunade wasn't prepared to go with her just yet. Of course Ka-san, Naruto said before picking up his sister and placing her on his lap. Has Soon been a good girl for Ka-san? Naruto asked the baby, who only reached toward his whiskers like she always did. Nah, she said, using her advanced baby vocabulary. Good job Soon, Naruto said with a smile that made Tsunade giggle. She's still more intelligent than Hiruzen, Naruto mused to himself before chuckling. Come on, you can come with me to go see Oji-san, Naruto said. He picked up Tsunade and held her against him, wrapped up in his gi before he disappeared in a sealess, smokeless Shunshin. Hello, Naruto yelled as he appeared in the training ground with his Ku Shunshin, Void Shunshin. It was similar to a normal Shunshin, but instead of just pumping chakra to your legs, you create pull S's of chakra that allow you to move faster and leave no trace like smoke or leaves. His team was waiting for him as Hiruzen was causally spinning a bow while Bawako was sharpening her new tanto. It had been a 6-month anniversary present from Hiruzen and was made of the highest quality chakra metal from Tetsu no Kuni. Where Hiruzen got that money, Naruto would never know. What's with the little one? Tobirama asked, but before Naruto could answer, Bawako swooped in and grabbed Tsunade from Naruto's hands. I could just eat you up, she said as she held Tsunade at face height. Tsunade giggled as she grabbed Bawako's silky white hair and played with it. Bawako's eyes widened at the sheer cuteness. Kawaii, I want one. Bawako-chan, we're 15. Naruto pointed out, but Bawako pouted and turned to Hiruzen with a pout. You will give me one eventually, she said, causing Hiruzen to flinch and nod hesitantly. Why yes ma'am, he said feebly, terrified of his girlfriend's rage. Naruto smirked. Whipped. Bawako sent him a death glare with enough killing intent to drop an elephant. I'll tell your fangirls that you want a baby. Naruto immediately fell to his knees and began to bow before her, kissing the ground around her feet. I'm sorry Bawako-sama, please spare this young Senju. Tobirama rolled his eyes and coughed into his hands to get Naruto's attention. Naruto looked up and sighed. Ka-san asked me if I could watch her and said I could bring her here. Tobirama sighed at his sister-in-law's antics. I guess it's fine if someone keeps an eye on her. Bawako-chan and I were just going to do some katas. We'll keep an eye on her, Hiruzen offered. Tobirama nodded. Okay, then we'll go to this side and make a connection. Okay. Naruto agreed before the two Senjus walked to the other end of the training field close to the Mokuden trees made by Naruto's father. You're the only one besides your parents that can control a tailed beast, and they are both difficult to reach. Are you sure you want to do this now? Tobirama asked hesitantly. If Naruto accidentally released the Kyuubi in the middle of Konoha with Hashirama and Mito difficult to reach, it would be bad. Yes, I cannot live with the fear of losing control, Naruto said with courage. Tobirama gave a stern nod before stepping back to give Naruto more room. The young Senju took off his gi top, leaving him only in a pair of black Anbu pants before sitting down. He sat cross-legged and placed his hands together in a prayer position. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath before entering his Amenami-no-Kanushi seal. His mindscape was vast, filled with trees like the ones outside of Konoha and waterfalls just like the ones in Myobokuzen. But it was the sky that was the most interesting. It was an odd purple as the blue of the sky and the black of night mixed into a perfect twilight. The moon, sun and 1,000 stars sat in the sky, basking the mindscape in their radiance. So my warden approaches me. Naruto turned around to see his tenant. The Kyuubi was a humongous creature at least as tall as the Hokage monument. It had bright orange fur, crimson red eyes and of course, 9 titanic tails. As soon as Naruto saw the Biju, he immediately bowed. The titanic fox raised an eyebrow. "Why do you bow before me, human?" "My name is Naruto Senju and I am sorry," Naruto said. Now the Kyuubi was confused. "Sorry for what? I have sealed you once more and I am sorry. However, I could not allow you to roam free and potentially cause harm to my precious people," Naruto explained, causing the Kyuubi to give a chuckle before snarling. "You're an interesting human, but a human nonetheless," he said, almost spitting out the word, human, like a curse. "So why are you here?" "To demand of my chakra. To seal me up tighter?" the Kyuubi asked. Naruto scratched his chin in confusion as he looked the Biju up and down. "But where's your seal?" The Kyuubi gestured up toward the twilight surrounding them. "Anything under is sky is under your control as you invoke the divine kami of the sky's name in your seal." Naruto nodded his head in understanding. "Interesting." He shook his head to rid his thoughts of the seal, and looked straight into the Biju's bright red eyes. "The reason why I'm here is because I want to be friends," Naruto said with determination. The Kyuubi laughed. "Ha! Friends with a human? Impossible." "Why?" Naruto asked. "You are an annoying species, filled with power but useless in the grand scheme of the world. You fight each other over land and power and destroy the world around you. Your lives are as short as an ant's, thus you do not understand that your greed is destroying the world," the fox explained, but Naruto rolled his eyes. "Perhaps, but are you not the one which destroys mountains? Creates tsunamis with a wave of your tails? Are we not all to blame?" Naruto asked the Biju, who froze before scoffing. "You are too stupid to understand," he said. "Says the one with literally no brain," Naruto said. The Biju snarled. Biju literally had no brain as they were made of chakra. The Kyuubi shook his head in surprise. "You have spunk, boy, I'll give you that. To hear that from one of the oldest beings on the planet is a big compliment," Naruto said with a grin. The two sat in silence for a moment before the Kyuubi realized something. "Why is your chakra so calming?" Naruto shrugged. "I don't know. It's almost familiar," the Kyuubi commented before freezing as a crazy thought came to his head. Naruto didn't notice this and kept talking. "So are you gonna try and break out?" The Kyuubi shook his head. "It's better to be in here free than to be sealed by another human if I got out. I've heard of worse seals than this. I'll come back tomorrow with a pack of playing cards or something," Naruto said with a grin. The Kyuubi rolled its eyes and lowered its chin to its paws, which looked weird for the huge fox. "Bring what you wish, human." Naruto was about to leave the seal eyes, he realized something. "Oh, what's your name?" "My name is Kyuubi," the Kyuubi said immediately. Naruto shook his head. "No, that's your title. What's your name?" "You are not worthy of my name, Zhu. Chi yet Naruto," the Kyuubi said before closing its eyes. Naruto was about to comment when he realized the Kyuubi called him Naruto for the first time. Naruto smiled broadly and began to leave the seal. "Until next time, Kenshin." "Nope," the Kyuubi said as Naruto left the seal, but if you looked close enough, you would have seen a small smile on the Biju's snout. Blue eyes opened suddenly and the young Senju smiled. He stood up and stretched, the grin still on his face as he thought about what happened. How was it? Naruto turned around to see his uncle leaning against a tree and writing something in a scroll. By the brush strokes, Naruto could tell he was making seals, and by the number of strokes, he could tell it was B ranked or higher. Tobirama was a level 9 Fuinjutsu master and most of the seals he created were directly made for battle. Not to mention one of the focuses of his Senju bloodline being Jikuken ninjutsu. Most were incredibly dangerous and made to finish a battle quickly, so there were minimal casualties on the side of Konoha. He was interesting, Naruto admitted with a chuckle. Tobirama looked up and raised an eyebrow. "Did he try to manipulate you?" Naruto shook his head. "No, I have to go train." Both Senju stood up with Tobirama tucking his scroll in his pouch and they began to walk toward the rest of their team. "Have you figured out that new Kenjutsu technique yet?" Naruto shook his head and turned to his uncle with a smile. "Nope. Wanna help me?" Tobirama sighed and clapped a hand onto his nephew's back. "I have nothing better do." "Fast, fast," Tsunade urged while pumping her hands into the air. She was on Naruto's shoulders as the older Senju jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Okay, you asked for it, Naruto said with a grin before striking the rooftop with enough force to crack it. He took off like a rocket, a black blur with red hair to all onlookers, while Tsunade just squealed at the speed. Unfortunately for Tsunade, the ride ended as they quickly reached the Senju compound at that speed. Naruto walked inside, his little sister still on his shoulders. He looked around to see only his parents sitting in the living room. Hey, Naruto said to his parents, who turned to look at him. Naruto lifted Tsunade off of his shoulders and placed her on the floor carefully. Tsunade immediately ran up to their parents and hugged them with a RP rising amount of strength for a 6-month-old. Chu-san, Ka-san, Tsunade-chan, how was your day with your Nisan? Mito asked with a big smile on her face. While his father was getting older and the stress from his job could be seen on his face, Mito looked not a day older than 23, and her shining porcelain skin was without a single wrinkle or blemish. Nah was good, Tsunade said, causing Naruto to smile at his sister. It was nice to have a family like this. A loving set of parents, a stern but caring uncle, and a sister he'd give his life to protect. Tsunade-chan, why don't you go over to Tokobasan? Mito asked her daughter, causing Tsunade to run off to look for her aunt. What happened? You wouldn't have sent Tsunade-chan away if it wasn't something important, Naruto said as he sat down across from his parents. Hashirama sighed and put on what Naruto, Tobirama and Madara called the Hokage face. I have called a Gokage Kaden 5-cage summit. Cool, Naruto cheered. The cages were the strongest of each village, each with enough power to destroy entire villages by themselves. Mito nodded. And your father would like you to be one of his 3 bodyguards along with Madara and your uncle. Naruto nodded. Yes, I'll do it. We leave in a week to go to Tetsu no Kuni and meet the other 4 cages with Miyamoto-sama as moderator, Hashirama said. Naruto pumped his fist in the air. Musashi Ojisan, I've been meaning to stop by Guro-san's house in Tetsu no Kuni for some supplies. Hashirama sighed at his son's antics. Well, okay then. Naruto jumped and ran out of the I have to go get ready. Yane. Quote, he does realize it's in a week, right? Naruto was sitting inside the seal with the Kyuubi, who had shrunk itself to the size of an Inuzuka dog so it could move the pieces. Before the 2 beings was a simple shogi board. I heard we're going on a trip tomorrow, the Kyuubi said as it moved a piece with a singular claw. Naruto rubbed his chin in thought as he nodded. Yeah, to meet the other cages in Tetsu no Kuni. I honestly don't care. A human's a human, the Kyuubi said. Hey, I take offense to that, Naruto said as he moved a piece. Take offense to what you will. At least you're a tolerable human, the Kyuubi said. Naruto was about to respond but decided against it. That was as close to a compliment from the chakra monster as he was going to get. He moved a piece and looked straight into his unofficial friend's eyes. What's the point of meeting anyway? Between your father, uncle, that damned Madara Uchiha, and yourself, especially with my power, you can destroy just about all the other villages, the Kyuubi said. Naruto shook his head. But that's not the way to peace. War only brings war. Violence brings only more violence. Destruction only more destruction, and death only more death. The only way to bring peace is to overcome our differences and understand that fighting won't fix anything. The Kyuubi said nothing and just stared at the boy before him with shock. That was almost a direct quote from someone who he thought of as a father. In fact, if you took away the whiskers and gave him purple eyes with concentric rings, you had someone who looked familiar. You're an interesting human, you know that, the Kyuubi said with a sigh. He moved a piece and got a feral grin on his snout. Check. Naruto shook his head in amazement. Ix the seal so that we can communicate and you can see what I see. Thank you. As nice as this sky is, it gets boring after a while, the Kyuubi admitted. You can see me make a fool of myself tomorrow, Naruto pointed out. Knowing it would get a response, he was not disappointed. You seem to do that regardless of the day. The two sat in silence until Naruto remembered something. I almost figure out that seal, but I'm going to need your help. The Kyuubi snorted. More like I have to help you or you will literally kill yourself and me in the process. Naruto grinned broadly. And you say you don't like me? Checkmate. Naruto jumped up, almost flipping the table in the process. I'm a genius and I can't beat a damn fox. You're not thousands of years old, the Kyuubi pointed out. Naruto nodded. Touché. Naruto stood up and stretched his arms and legs while the fox did the same, his nine tails moving lazily. Talk to you later, Hideaki, Naruto asked as he walked out the seal, although he already knew the answer. Four men were walking through the blizzard, their bodies visibly aglow in a cloak of chakra as they coated themselves to keep warm in the sub-zero temperatures. One was a tall man with tan skin and dark eyes. He had waist-length black hair typically styled in a center-parted fringe that framed his face. He wore burgundy armor made of several plates and had a simple gray cloak around him. He didn't have any weapons besides a kunai pouch on him, not that he needed it. One of the men was fair-skinned and had shaggy white hair and dark-colored eyes. He had 3 red markings on his face, one under each of his eyes and one on his chin. He wore similar blue armor to the other man, but his included a white fur collar and several extra kunai pouches. At his waist was an odd silver rod, like a handle for something. The third man had waist-length black hair and crimson plate armor similar to the other men. He was fair-skinned as well and looked quite dangerous with T. He gunbai and comma going across his back. But that thing that caused him to look the most different was his bright red eyes with 3 red commas. The last man had tan skin like the first man, spiky red and gold hair and bright blue eyes. He wore pitch black armor similar to the other men but slightly more streamlined to fit his more slim figure. He wore black Anbu pants and black shinobi sandals. He had 3 swords. One was a sword as tall as him with a large cross guard so that it looked like a large cross. The other 2 were normal katana, one with a sheath as black as night, the other as white as snow. The 4 men continued to walk, their cage and Biju level chakra pools not even budging as their armors of chakra blazed. I feel it, Naruto mumbled under his breath but loud enough for his companions to hear it. There it is, Tobirama commented. All 4 men flared their chakra, clearing the blizzard for a second, allowing them to see what was before them. It was 3 mountains Koa. Ted in snow, but Naruto felt 1,000 chakra signatures. I've missed you, he said as he and the 3 men walked toward the samurai stronghold. Naiten Ichi Ryu, Yamakiri, Mountain Cutter Musashi, yelled as he drew his wakizashi underhand. The blade slid from the sheath and out of Musashi's hand directly at Naruto's heart with a speed faster than any arrow or kunai. I can't dodge and we agree. D to not use chakra so I can't avoid with a Hiraishin. Here goes that new technique, Naruto thought to himself before he stepped forward with his right foot and placed his hands to his black hakama. Naruto quickly drew both Shisui and Wado Ikimonji from their sheaths with as much force as possible. Notoryu Ii, Rashomon. Both of his blades intercepted the flying wakizashi and deflected it off course. However, Musashi moved forward in a burst of speed during Naruto's brief distraction. He instantly placed his katana against Naruto's chest and Naruto knew it was over. Damn it, Naruto mumbled as Musashi sheathed both of his blades. Musashi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and smiled like a father would to his son. You're doing very well. By the time you're my age, you'll be the greatest swordsman in the world. Naruto gave a small chuckle at the thought. That's because you'll have stopped fighting. I have no doubt, Naruto-kun, that you will one day surpass me, Musashi said with a proud smile. Naruto was about to say something when a young boy ran inside. Miyamoto Dono, Senju-sama, the other kage have arrived, the boy said while bowing very low and making sure not to look Naruto or Musashi in the eyes. Musashi nodded. Thank you, Kenichi-kun, we will be ready soon. Kenichi stood up and ran out the door, eager to get away from the 2 terrifying warriors before he accidentally offended either of them. Naruto and Musashi looked at each before bowing and walking off to get their clothes. Naruto walked into the room in full armor, walking right behind his father while Mater was to Hashirama's left and Tobirama was to his right. Hashirama took a deep breath and folded his hands on the table before them. Good, now that you are here we may begin, Hashirama said before Jess. Turning to Kenichi, who was standing at the doorway. Kenichi nodded hesitantly before opening the door and thus, unleashing the floodgates. The first to walk in was a dark-skinned man, with prominent CR. Eases under his eyes and a mop of shaggy black hair, which partially obscured his forehead protector, but Naruto knew it had the image of a cloud. His attire consisted of a cream-colored coat with a high collar, a white forehead protector, zori, and a purple scarf around his neck. The person behind him was a dark-skinned man with a broad, flat nose and dark eyes which had markings underneath them. He had shoulder-length, black hair which he wore in a peculiar style, along with a stylized beard which tapered off into a goatee. He also had sideburns which curved inwards, just underneath his eyes. He wore a long-sleeved dark-colored shirt which was open to reveal a mesh armor shirt underneath, along with a scarf that hung around his neck, dark-colored pants, and a simple headband. The third man was young, around Naruto's age, and had dark skin and long blonde hair. He wore only a pair of black pants with a red rope as a belt and a white vest that showed a chest much more muscular than Naruto's. But the thing that was the most interesting about him was his unusual eyes, which had green irides, dark sclerae, and no pupils, and a tattoo for the kanji for lightning he had on his shoulder. But the thing that distinguished the first man from the other two men was the yellow hat on his head with the kanji for lightning on it. Naruto looked at the doorway and extended his sensing range, pausing when he felt 3 cage-level signatures. The first to walk in was an old man with copious amounts of long, gray hair, along with a long mustache and beard that merged into one, all of which almost covered the entirety of his face. He had a scar that ran across his left eye, which was apparently blind. His teeth were sharp and triangular like that of a shark. He wore a simple beige kimono over a pair of black pants, and on his head was a white hat with the kanji for water. Behind him was a tall and slender man with long blonde hair combed back. He also had a triangular goatee, a thin mustache, no eyebrows, and very prominent lines at the sides of his mouth. He wore a pin-striped kimono held together by a black obi tied around his waist. Connected to his obi was a few bottles, almost as if they held water. The man to the other side of the Mizukage was a tall man with darkened sclera, and long, black hair which was long enough to reach his back. He wore the standard Kurigakure attire, complete with pinstriped arm and leg guards, over which he wore a sleeveless haori with ragged ends. So we have the Raikage and the Mizukage. Now we're just missing the Tsuchikage and the Kazekage. Naruto thought to himself as he watched the cages sit at the circular table, a special touch his father added to show that all the cages were equal. To Hashirama's right was the Raikage, to his left was the vacant seat of the Kazekage. To the left of the Kazekage was the Mizukage, and to the right of the Raikage was the Tsuchikage. Naruto stood to the left of his father while Tobirama stood to his father's left, and Madara stood behind him, all of them on guard just in case. The next cage was short and had a bristling mustache and long beard, both of which had dark highlights running through them alternately. He wore a simple beige kimono with a gray obi. The man behind him had his entire body was covered by intricately wrapped bandages, with only his violet-colored eyes and nose being visible, giving him an overall mummy-like appearance. He wore a black headband and a black pair of pants. He wore no shoes as his feet were wrapped as well. The only weapon on him were 2 swords on his back wrapped in bandages. The last man was only a little bit older than Naruto, around 17, and had brown hair along with dark brown and thick eyebrows. He wore black pants and a long-sleeved black shirt with armor plating. But the thing that stood out the most to Naruto was his large nose that covered about half of the Iwa Nin's face. But Naruto knew that, like himself, he shouldn't underestimate him just because he was young. If his cage thought that he deserved a spot with the cages and their bodyguards, then he was a threat to Naruto. Finally, the last cage entered the room. The last cage had spiky brown hair, black eyes, and he wore a dark suit which ended in a mask which he generally used to cover his mouth. Covering his head was a green hat with the kanji for wind. His older bodyguard was fair-skinned and had an intricate green dragon tattoo on his bald head. He wore a dark-colored kimono held close by a light-colored sash, over which he wore a plain, long-sleeved haori. His second bodyguard was a fair-skinned teenage girl around Naruto's age. She was short and had beautiful black hair that went down to her mid-back. Her black eyes pierced into your soul. She was wearing a long black haori, a pair of tight black shorts with fishnet around her thighs, and a pair of black shinobi sandals. But 2 things Naruto noticed made him very interested. The first was the large black gourd on her back. The other thing was the fact that her DD breasts were only wrapped in bandages and nothing else. "She's gorgeous," Naruto thought to himself as he stared straight at the girl, barely blinking. As if by fate, she turned around to look straight at him with an apathetic. Onyx met Cerulean and the girl immediately turned away from him. What happened? Naruto asked himself. Was he too ugly for her or something? Before he could tear himself anymore, his father began talking. So would anyone like to begin? There was silence as no one made any move to begin. Hashirama sighed. I guess I'll start. My name is Hashirama Senju, Shodai Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Madara sighed. Madara Uchiha, Konohagakure no Sato. Tobirama Senju, Konohagakure no Sato, Tobirama said, stern-faced. Naruto Senju, Konohagakure no Sato, Naruto said with a half-wave. Everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Who is this boy? He was only 14 or something, but he had a chakra level higher than almost everyone in the room. There was something else about the boy put them on guard. The Hokage seemed almost childish, the Uchiha confidence and the other Senju seriousness. But the boy was unreadable. He showed no emotion but wasn't making it was obvious he was hiding them. No, those were the eyes of a man who was analyzing everything and had you in checkmate before you even realized you were playing. The Raikage sighed. M. Yatsuki, Shodai Raikage of Kumogakure no Sato. Q. Yatsuki, Kumogakure no Sato, said his older bodyguard, a stern expression on his face. The boy Naruto's age nodded. Z. Yatsuki, Kumogakure no Sato. Naruto took in the men. The Raikage was undoubtedly powerful and his partner was as well as he had Kage-level reserves himself. But the teenager intrigued me. He had Kage-level chakra and a strong lightning affinity. Not to mention the seal on his shoulder. Yes, the tattoo was an intricately made seal. The seal master within Naruto instantly recognized the technique of disguising a powerful seal as a design or a simple kanji. Naruto couldn't tell what the seal did and that's what made him nervous. Naruto was the first to know that a simple tattoo old result in AS rank fire technique to the face. Byakuren Hazuka, Shodai Mizukage of Kurigakure no Sato, the old man with the lazy eye said with a monotone look. The blonde man made a clicking noise with his tongue. Genjutsu Hazuka, Kurigakure no Sato, the man with the long black hair bowed his head respectively. Kazuhiro Yuki, Kurigakure no Sato. Not good. 2 Hazukas and a Yuki is a big threat, especially together. Madara had told him stories of Hazukas making water dragons and a member of the Yuki clan instantly freezing it to create a 30-foot ice dragon that destroyed dozens. Not to mention the fact that Hazukas could dodge any attack by turning their bodies to water and Yukis could make ice as strong as steel. Ishikawa Kamizuru, Shodai Tsuchikage of Iwagakure no Sato, he old man with the weird beard and mustache said. Iwagakure no Sato, the mummy said in just above a whisper. Onoki, Iwagakure no Sato, the other teenager said proudly. Naruto activated his sensing ability, all the while keeping a straight face so that no one noticed. Onoki had a very wild, almost immature chakra but as stubborn as stone and was at least Jonin level. Mu's chakra was Mysterio, but the one thing Naruto could tell was that he could wield all 5 chakra natures and some other weird nature. The Tsuchikage's chakra was powerful by itself but also filled with what seemed like thousands of tiny chakras that buzzed in harmony. Redo, Shodai Kazekage of Sunagakure no Sato, the Kazekage said as he stared at each cage and bodyguard with calculating eyes. The bald man grunted. Shaman Monzaemon Chikamatsu, Sunagakure no Sato. Sunagakure no Sato, the girl said, her voice quiet and stern but melodious. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Love, that was a big problem. Everyone knew who Monzaemon Chikamatsu was. The man who invented the deadly Kugutsu no Jutsu puppet technique and was a master of his technique to the point he could take down entire castles. Not to mention the fact that he was the only puppeteer to be able to use more than 10 puppets. Naruto looked at the middle of the table where all 5 cage hats met at a point. Never had so many dangerous individuals meet and not immediately begin to battle. I would like to begin this meeting by saying, I am not worthy. Hashirama yelled before bowing so deeply he almost slammed his head onto the table. His 3 bodyguards simultaneously groaned. Chu-san, Hashi-baka, Nisan, bowing to other cage isn't a sign of lasting leader, yo, the Raikage said before crossing his arms. Byakuren nodded. I must agree with A-san. Lift your head, Hashirama-san. Hashirama lifted his head and held back tears. I'm just so honored to be before my fellow Kages who have managed to stop the fighting within their own ville. Lages and stop as much bloodshed as possible. So why have you called us here, Hashirama-san? I doubt it was just for casual conversation, Redo pointed out. I would like to devise a temporary agreement between the 5 great shinobi nations to preserve peace, Hashirama said with confidence. Naruto watched each of the Kages closely. M frowned at the thought but nodded in agreement. Byakuran stroked his beard in thought. Redo gave a nod. Ishikawa gave a chuckle and crossed his arms. Why would we do this? Iwagakure could easily destroy any other village if necessary. Redo frowned and slammed a hand on the table. Would you like to test that theory? Because my Sunanin will paint the battlefield red with you rockheads. Hashirama sighed. Please. We are trying to avoid war and meaningless death. There was silence when Hashirama decided to play his trump card. As offerings of peace, I offer the Biju. Something inside of Naruto broke as soon as his father said the name. How dare that tree hugger! The Kyuubi yelled as it flared its chakra, causing Naruto's eyes to momentarily flash red and for his pupils to become slits. Biju? I asked. The Biju are 9 giant lifeforms of chakra that each have special abilities. Each are strong enough to destroy mountains and have enough chakra to supply an army, Hashirama said hesitantly, being careful to avoid eye contact with his son who he knew felt strongly about the topic. And you are just going to offer them to us? To possibly use as weapons? Byakuran asked. Weapons? Weapons? Naruto and the Kyuubi growled internally. No, to promote equality. If each village had at least 1 Biju, we will all be equal, Hashirama argued. Redo folded his hands before him. Suna already owns a Biju and instead we wish for a CE of Hino Ishi land and 30% of what each village will pay for a Biju. Chakra burst from the other 3 Kages' bodies. Absolutely not. A yelled as his body began to crackle with lightning. How dare you? Ishikawa yelled. Buzzing began to become audible. Do you want war? Because Kiri will give you war. Byakuran yelled, his hand turning to water. Naruto slammed his hand on the table, cracking it. His own Kage-level chakra spiking. This is exactly what my father was trying to avoid. There was silence, so Naruto continued. Each of you have lived during times of wars. Each of you have seen death. Maybe even some of your family. Each of the Kages and some of the bodyguards nodded sadly. Now you are in a position to fix things, even if only temporary, but still. You have a chance to save children from the horrors of war, but you threaten each other with a drop of a hat. You are all so powerful you don't realize that Genin, Chunin and Jonin are not as strong as you. They won't survive battles as easily. Naruto yelled. So why waste the opportunity to save lives? Remember, you have to look out for your village and the children of the future, Naruto said sadly. No one said anything. A and Redo nodded their heads slowly. Byakuran smiled slightly while Ishikawa stroked his beard in thought. Very well. I will sign this agreement and accept this Biju as you call it, Ishikawa said. As will I, Byakuran agreed. Yo, I will sign, A said while crossing his arms. I as well, Redo said. Hashirama looked at his son with a hint of awe before turning back to the table and nodded. Thank you. After discussing for about another hour on trading routes and the like, the Kages all filed out of the room. Each of the Kages shook hands before they left, but not before all of them insisted on shaking Naruto's hand. Naruto met Z, who was the son of M, and the 2 teenagers gave each other a stern nod before they shook each other's hand. Unfortunately for Naruto, almost all of his fingers were crushed when they did. Naruto also met Onoki, and the 2 ninjas almost got into a fight when Onoki asked Mew if they could get teriyaki as it was the greatest food ever. Of course, Naruto disagreed. And the 2 got into a minor disagreement. After Onoki insulted Naruto's whiskers and Naruto made fun of Onoki's nose, Mew and Tobirama were forced to separate the 2 before they came to blows. Nally Naruto met I, and that girl was just, wow. Most of the girls in Konoha weren't Naruto's type. Red as Mito did not approve, but I was beautiful in every way. She was gorgeous, mysterious, and most of all, powerful enough to take care of herself. She refused to make eye contact with Naruto most of the time so that Naruto couldn't see the light blush on her face. The only other time Azure blew Met Onyx was at the very end when I blew Naruto a small kiss before she ran out the building to meet her cage. Everything was going well until Ishikawa commented to Hashirama that he would, like on of the more powerful Biju, as he walked out the door. Finally, only Hashirama and his bodyguards were left in the room and Hashirama was practically sweating. Despite all of the things that had happened in between, Naruto was not happy and was subconsciously radiating ki. Hashirama knew he had upset his son and that Naruto had inherited the signature Uzumaki rage. After all, the last time Naruto was enraged, Hashirama had to replant a majority of the trees around Konoha as they had all been set ablaze in white flames. Naruto, Hashirama said, but Naruto made no sign. He heard him as he sharpened Shisui with a stone. Naruto, Hashirama said a little louder, a little more power in his voice. Once more Naruto did not respond, focusing on the condition of his blade. Finally Hashirama was fed up and released his ki. Naruto Senju Uzumaki, I will be in my room, Naruto said as he stood up, sheathed his blade and began to walk out the door. No, we will discuss this, Hashirama yelled as he slammed his fist onto the table, striking right where Naruto had struck before. With a single strike, he shattered the table into two pieces despite the table being 3 inches thick and made of Mokuden wood. Naruto whipped around, his eyes glowing crimson in the dark room and radiating just as much ki as his father. Discuss what? That you have just given beings away. Like they were property. Tobirama stepped forward with his hands up in defense. They have incredible power. Chakra filled the room as Naruto spiked his chakra, cracking the walls with its oppressive power. So do we. Each of you have at least as much power as a Biju and a conscious just like them. What if someone sealed you inside someone, so that your chakra could be taken and used as a weapon? Naruto argued, his eyes still aglow. His eyes radiated more power than the Sharingan, and it was only the 3 shinobi's training that stopped them from flinching. This is different, Madara argued with a frown. Naruto raised an eyebrow. How? Because they are animals. No, they have a consciousness just like us. They care and hate just like us. Naruto continued. These cages agreed for now, but they will not forever. And you have given them power unlike any they have ever seen. The number of deaths in the future will be unimaginable. Hashirama stood up. It is a risk we must take for peace. Naruto scoffed at the thought. Konoha outlawed slavery as soon as it was founded, but you are enslaving beings just because they have power and they aren't human. He turned around and his eyes reverted to their normal sea. Allure, although they were not their normal warm blue. These were the ice blue eyes of a man who was tired and disappointed with life. Kawurama and Itama would be ashamed, was the last thing he said before he disappeared in a flash. Hashirama dropped to his knees and grabbed his chest. Madara and Tobirama each prepared to disappear in a Kamui and Hiraishin respectively, but Hashirama stopped them. No, leave him. He was right. They would be ashamed, he said in a half-whisper. While in Naruto's room, the Kyuubi was thinking something different. Perhaps he is the one father spoke of, perhaps. E4 Konoha Nin had just left the Kaden summit and were relishing in the warmer weather of Tokigakure. The warm but moist air was a big and welcome change from the never-ending blizzard of Tetsu no Kuni. The tension between the 4 ninja was thick enough to be cut through by Yuru, as Naruto had refused to talk to the rest of his party. Hashirama was in a stage of melancholy while Tobirama and Madara were trying to keep to themselves to prevent another argument. The only sound that was audible was the dull clunking of their sandals striking the ground. Step, 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 Saint, move, N. Naruto yelled as he drew Yuru from his back and sliced through 5 incoming shuriken. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Madara pull out his gunbai and block kunai coming for him and Hashirama. Suddenly an odd sickle was thrown at Naruto, connected to its user by a steel chain. Naruto blocked the 2-bladed sickle with Yuru before following where the chain led to with a critical eye. He extended his range and felt 4 chakras, each at least Jonin level, a leopard and 3 panthers. Naruto yelled. It was Konoha code. A cub was a Genin level chakra, a cheetah is a Chunin level chakra, a leopard a Jonin, a panther a cage, and a lion a Biju level chakra. I'll take the head panther. He's after me, I'm sure, Hashirama said. All 4 ninja nodded and each jumped after one of the ninja, Naru. to personally going after the one with the chain sickle. He may have been mad at his father, but no one goes after his family. With a stern and ready expression, Naruto drew a familiar kanji in the air with his finger and watched as it glowed bright orange. Senso Fuinjutsu. Bakuhatsu. War Fuinjutsu. Explosion. Naruto yelled. In less than a second, the floating kanji expanded at least 50 times until it was almost unreadable when it launched forward, attaching itself to the ground in front of the trees. Suddenly the kanji glowed white before exploding with enough force to level the trees around it. In an attempt to avoid dying, a black-cloaked figure was forced to jump out of the trees and land on the ground with a heavy thud, spiderweb fractures on the ground around his feet. As the man landed, his hood fell back revealing long silver hair and light purple eyes. He was wearing what looked like fishnet armor under his cloak, and in his hand was an odd weapon. He was taller than Naruto but more slim, almost skinny. The weapon in hand was a long two-bladed scythe with bright red blades the color of blood. Ah, the delicious pain, the man said with a lick of his lips. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Just for the record, I only find female masochists hot. You're just creepy right now. Blasphemy. You will embrace Jashin-sama's teachings. The man yelled before throwing his scythe at Naruto with a speed greater than a kunai. The teen ducked but was forced to use a Kushunshin to disappear. He would have used the Hiraishin but he hadn't set up any seals nearby. Naruto pushed off the air and disappeared once more, landing on a branch in the trees above the man. He said Jashin-sama, which means that he worships this man. Jashin. I remember. Jashin is a false god that members of Yugakure worship and preaches mass murder. Interesting. Naruto recalled to himself before forming a Kage Bunshin and drawing Yuru. The clone nodded to its boss before disappearing in a Kushunshin of its own, although Naruto couldn't tell due to the clone being cloaked by the Mujin Maisei dustless bewildering cover. The real Naruto grabbed Yuru before taking a deep breath, imagining the seals in his head. He blew outwards, unleashing a wave of white flames as hot as the sun that bathed the area in a true inferno. Kuden. Goka Mekyaku. Hell release. Great fire annihilation. He yelled before oating his body in chakra and jumping into the flames. Naruto had to admit they were hot, even with the flame-resistant seals he had tattooed onto himself, and that the fact he was telling them not to burn him, but nevertheless he soon found who he was looking for. Sprawled out in the middle of the flames was the man. His shirt had burned to pieces and he was laying unmoving. Naruto, knowing he had to be sure, stabbed downwards through the man's chest. Just as he was about to pull out, the man grabbed Yuru by the blade. Surprise! The man yelled, a crazed grin on his face that looked even more insane with the blood leaking from his mouth. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. How are you not dead? The man jumped up and laughed hysterically, allowing Naruto to retract Yuru from the man's grip in that instant with a hard tug. I am Jashin-sama's success. I am immortal and will live forever to offer sacrifices to Jashin-sama. Naruto scowled and jumped out of the flames, snuffing them out in the process. The man stood up and cracked his neck, his charred skin crackling as he grabbed his weapon of choice. I always like to know the name of the person I'm going to kill, the man asked with a grin that would put the Cheshire Cat to shame as he spun his twin-bladed scythe in his fingers. Naruto rested Yuru on his shoulder and stood up straight, his black armor shining the light. Naruto Senju. Kyosha. Kyosha screamed like a battle cry before charging at Naruto, scythe out and ready to dismember. Naruto mirrored his action, ready to carve up the immortal with Yuru's midnight blade. Mada. Ra hefted his gunbai on one shoulder while he lazily spun his kama through his fingers with his left hand. Come out already. I sense you're in the trees, he said lazily. There was no response, so he sighed and threw his gunbai like a flail. The war fan flew through the air, coated with wind chakra, and struck the trees. It sliced through each of them with ease, like the fan was in fact a giant blade. And not a piece of thousand-year-old wood. A figure jumped from the trees to avoid the fan and landed gracefully. He had long white hair down to his mid-back and sinful gold eyes. He wore a white cloak over a black hakama, and in his hand was a gold bow, but there was no quiver on his body. But it was his smile that both terrified and enraged Madara. It was so wide and full of sadistic joy, it looked inhuman. The man's eyes lit up when he saw Madara and his grip on the bow tightened. "Hi there, Madara." Madara's grip on his weapons tightened, his knuckles becoming white. He would never forget that face. The Uchiha clan head lifted his head, although this time, his eyes glowed blood red and were covered in black markings that spun slowly. These were not the simple Sharingan, or the Mangekyo. No, these were the Ain no Mangekyo Sharingan, the heavenly eyes that see the truth of all of creation without obstruction. "Senji Hagoromo, I'll enjoy killing you," Madara said in a voice barely above a whisper. A pin drop could be heard. The silence was so deafening. Slowly a single leaf floated to the floor between the two ninja. It floated gently, unaware of its surroundings and the danger it was in. Or perhaps it simply did not care. Madara's Sharingan spun as he watched the leaf fall. 3, 2, it slowly drifted to the ground, letting the wind carry it slowly away while gravity pulled it toward the earth. But in the end, one pull was stronger than the other and the leaf struck the floor. Instantly both shinobi jumped back, weapons at the ready. A gold arrow formed on top of Senji's bow as it was instantly brought to full draw, golden chakra streaming off of the arrow as it was released with extraordinary force. Kinten Kyujutsu Aikiryu. Kon. Gold release bow technique first style. Pierce. Madara's right eye spun so fast that it was a blur of red and black, creating the illusion of a kaleidoscope. Amaterasu. Tobirama searched outwards before nodding and clasping his hands into a Tora seal. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. A water dragon shimmered into existence before flying at the trees with great speed. It struck its target with enough force to level 20 trees that were unfortunately in the dragon's path. However, there was no body. Tobirama said before rotating his arms in a circular motion. Around him formed a ring of water that slowly grew in size and speed until it was almost 10 feet in diameter. Sweden. Daibikufu no Jutsu. Water release. Great waterfall technique. He called as the water ring explode. Dead upwards into a 30-meter pillar of water. Time seemed to freeze for a moment as the pillar began to crash before striking the ground and rushing outward in a tidal wave of water that leveled the surrounded forest. Interesting. So this is power of the strongest Sweden user in the history of the shinobi world. Tobirama turned around to see a man in a bright white cloak standing on top of the lake he had just created. He wore a bright red shirt and a pair of black pants under his white cloak. He had platinum blonde hair and bright green eyes that sparkled with wisdom and confidence despite the opponent before him. Tobirama drew the Raijin no Ken and prepared to stab it in the lake to electrocute the man. "Who are you and how did you dodge those attacks?" The man gave a loud laugh. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hisao Kohaku and I am the smartest man in the elemental nations." Tobirama raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes, as well as the one of the strongest ninja in the world as. I can understand the basis of any technique and Kekai Genkei," the man proclaimed arrogantly as he placed a hand to his chest. Tobirama nodded, his lips pressed together in thought. One question before I kill you. How smart are you?" "My IQ is 182 inches," the man said with an arrogant smirk as if expecting Tobirama to bow before him. "You're not even the smartest person in this forest," Tobirama sighed. With a sigh before disappearing in a flash only to reappear above Hisao, the Raijin no Ken prepared to sever his head. "You can come after me, but when you endanger my friends and my family, you will die," Hashirama said under his breath as he felt around for a cage-level chakra. His eyes narrowed slightly when he found what he was looking for and his hands blurred through the two hand seals necessary for the technique. Futon. Shinku Taegyoku, wind release. Vacuum great sphere. He then blew out a large ball of compressed air that once it struck the trees where the chakra signature was, it immediately expanded. Immediately it reduced much of the surroundings in an incredible display of destruction. "Impressive. You are worthy of your title." Hashirama whipped around, a wooden sword coated in wind chakra in his hand, reading to decapitate his enemy only to resistance in the form of an arm-coated Doden chakra. "Who are you? Why are you after me?" Hashirama asked the man. He was a tall tan man with long dark brown hair. His eyes have an unusual coloring. Green irides, no pupils and red sclera which matched his green shirt, black pants and red cloak. The creepiest thing about his though was his sewed-up mouth, giving him a creepy smile. My name is Kakuzu and the reason why I after you is that I don't like peace much. There's no money in peace, no missing nin that are wanted, noth. Ing worth killing, Kakuzu said before chuckling at the thought. Hashirama pressed harder on his blade. You're insane. I'm also immortal, which means I can afford to be insane, Kakazu commented as he stopped pumping chakra to his arm, allowing Hashirama to slice through it. However, instead of gushing blood, the wound gushed thousands of tiny strings that all lunged at Hashirama, who jumped back and slammed his hands into a snake seal. Mokuden. Hobi no Jutsu. As soon as the shinobi no kami landed, 2 domes of wood burst from the ground, meeting in the middle, revealing carved onto the top was the image of a smirking dragon. The strong as steel strings struck the shield only to bounce off without even leaving a scratch. Kakuzu frowned and was about to launch his next attack when he heard something coming from the dome. Don't be afraid of the flames, be afraid of the shadow of the raging fire, Hashirama yelled as the dome split down the middle, allowing the greatest shinobi of the era to jump out with a chakra-enhanced leap. His hands already in their signature snake seal. Mokuden. Mokuryu no Jutsu. Wood release. Wood dragon technique. As if to catch his fall, a wood dragon with a trunk nose burst from below him and allowed Hashirama to land on its head, all the while the Shodai Hokage flashed through even more hand seals. With a clap of his hands and a resentful expression, Hashirama shouted the name of his technique. Senpo. Mokuden Haijutsu. Jukai Koden Kiru. Sage Art. Mokuden Secret Technique. Nativity of a World of Trees Slice. In an instant, thousands upon thousands of trees grew from the ground, eager to skewer Kakuzu with their deadly branches and trunks. Hashirama wasn't done yet as he unrolled his scroll and threw the released contents into the air. As the trees grew, they grabbed onto one of the thousands of sword, spears, naganatas, maces and bows that were once sealed in the scroll. Hashirama crossed his arms as he watched Kakazu dance between the thousands of weapons and sharp branches attempting to separate him from this world. I've met men who have claimed to be immortal, who have claimed to be gods, but in the end, we all die. Yuru and Ky. Osha's 2-bladed scythe met in the middle of the field, releasing a shockwave. The two grunted as they both pushed against the weapons in a battle for dominance. Suddenly Kyosha was forced to jump back when he noticed Yuru take a green glow that was likely a futon coating. Lucky for him, he did retract his weapon, otherwise it would have been bisected by the masterpiece of Guro Masamune. But not before Kyosha twisted his blade at the last moment and sliced Naruto's forearm with it. It was a small scratch, but it was enough. Ha ha, I win, Kyosha yelled as he jumped away from Naruto. What do you mean? Naruto asked as he prepared for another attack. I am Jashin-sama's success, Kyosha said with a cackle before slicing his palm and making a perimeter of blood around him. Finally he lifted his scythe to his mouth and licked the blood from the tip. That's when things began to change. Instantly Kyosha's skin became pitch black and white markings began to cover his body, like a skeleton. Quote, Jujutsu. Shiji Hyokutsu, curse technique. Death controlling possessed blood. Naruto raised an eyebrow before both of his eyes opening wide when he looked down to see a stab wound in his gut. His Yulin blue eyes looked up to see a spear in the gut of Kyosha as well, exactly where Naruto's wound was. What did you do to me? Naruto mumbled as he placed a hand to his wound. For some reason the Kyuubi in Naruto's healing factor couldn't close it instantly like the others, and that's what scared him. My pain is your pain and your pain is Jashin-sama's sacrifice, Kyosha yelled before pulling another spear out of his cloak and stabbing himself in the shoulder. Naruto clutched his shoulder in pain and grit his teeth. Shit, Chu-san, I can't beat you, you're unbeatable. A 7-year-old, Naruto complained as he sat down with a cross of his arms. Hashirama chuckled and sat down next to his son with a smile on his face. There's a weakness to every technique, Naruto-kun, thus there's a weakness to every man and woman, Hashirama said. Naruto thought about it for a moment before jumping up, his red and gold hair glowing in the afternoon sun. Okay, I'll beat you this time, Chu-san. Hashirama laughed as he got up. I hope so, Naruto-kun. Wait, he hasn't moved from that circle even though I'm all the way over here and wounded, which means he's probably restrained to that seal, Naruto thought to himself before standing up. Using Yuru as a cane for a moment. Naruto lifted his right arm, revealing a tattoo of the word, water, on his forearm. He formed his left hand into the seal of confrontation and took a deep breath. His water tattoo glowing a bright blue. Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. Naruto yelled as water molecules around him CKLY rushed to form a huge water dragon that shot at Kyosha with an incredible speed. Naruto didn't have his uncle's natural Suiden affinity, so instead, he designed a seal with the help of his Uncle T. Hat pulled water molecules toward him, thus allowing him greater control and more water to use. Kyosha's jaw dropped in surprise as he was forced to swing his scythe to decapitate the What are you, suicidal? If you kill me, you die. Only to be hit in the face by Naruto's foot. In that brief moment, Naruto had disappeared in a Kushunshin despite his injuries and did a flying side kick of mighty proportions. Straight to Kyosha's face. Naruto grinned as his immortal enemy was sent flying backwards out of his circle. Naruto raised Yuru over his head, a light green aura surrounding the blade. Kokudo Isen. Black blade single flash. He yelled as a blade of green wind flew from his blade at an incredible speed. Kyosha's eyes widened in surprise before he twisted his body to dodge in mid-air at the last moment. Unlucky for him, he was met by the clone Naruto made and hid before, a ball of swirling white flames in its hands. Kuden. Kan Senpu. Hell release. Flame whirlwind. The clone yelled as it threw the flame sphere straight into Kyosha's chest. As soon as it struck the silver-haired man, it shot him into the air in a pillar of white flames. Naruto and his clone both dissipate. Red and Kushunshin before the reappeared to each side of Kyosha's charred body, both of their Yurus aglow with a white aura. Ryugari no Tachi. Spirit-cutting longsword. They yelled as they sliced through the immortal, although this time, there was no cut marks, yet Kyosha screamed in pain all the same. In fact, he screamed like a banshee the entire time as he fell to the ground and struck it with a thud. His black skin receding back its original complexion. What did you do to me? Kyosha yelled in pain as Naruto walked up to him, his wounds healing from his regeneration factor and the Kyuubi's chakra. I separated your spiritual energy from your physical energy, thus blocking you from using chakra, Naruto said with a sigh as he rested Yuru on his shoulder. It was one of his most dangerous and powerful techniques just because of the fact that it could turn any shinobi into a civilian. Kyosha sighed and placed his hand over his eyes to block the sun. Just kill me, there's no life for a shinobi who can't use chakra. Naruto nodded and lifted Yuru, placing it over Kyosha's chest. You were a good opponent, thank you. As were you, Kyosha said with a smile and a nod of his head. Naruto nodded and dropped his blade. This time no hand grabbed it. Madara's Amaterasu caught the arrow mid-flight, melting the gold arrow instantly into a puddle of molten metal. Madara growled before rowing his Kama at Senji, who bent backwards at an incredible angle to dodge it only to be forced to jump back when he saw Madara's gunbai fly toward his feet. You're not still mad about that, are you? Senji taunted as he was forced to jump back when the Kama came back toward him once more. I'm going to kill you, Madara said between the spaces of his gritted teeth. To anyone watching, they would have been surprised to see the rage coming from the usually stoic Uchiha. However, this fight was personal. Madara shot forward with incredible speed and shot a right punch toward Senji's face, only for it to be blocked with a gold-encased punch of Senji's own. Madara punched with his left only to be forced to dodge a front kick with Senji's leg. The head of the Uchiha clan took his opportunity to drop to the floor and sweep the Hagoromo clan member's remaining leg. With the skill of a trained shinobi, Madara used the centrifugal force of his sweep to bring his foot around into a whirlwind, ding him up and allowing him to bring his foot down on Senji's chest with a chakra-infused axe kick that left cracks on the ground around them. Senji didn't even flinch from the pain and instead just gave an insane laugh. How was I supposed to know a 6-year-old Sharingan couldn't track my arrow? Oh well, it looked good coming out the back of his skull. Madara's eyes spun so fast that it was a blur of black and red. Blue chakra erupted from his body and solidified into a warrior that was the thing of nightmares for thousands of shinobi throughout Madara's career as a ninja. Susanoo. Senji's grin dropped for a moment as he realized he would be crushed by the foot of the armored avatar of Madara Uchiha. He placed his palms facing toward his feet and sent a compressed chakra burst from his hands, sending him shooting out of the way just in time. He quickly rolled and landed on one knee, a bow and arrow forming from in his hands instantly. Kinten Kyujutsu. Niryu High. Gold Release Bow Technique. Second Style Fly. Senji yelled as he shot his arrow with an amazing amount of force. It flew toward the Susanoo with golden chakra streaming off of it and enough power to pierce Thrug Susanoo and Madara if it were not for the blue shield on Madara's left arm. Yata Mirror. Incredibly, the powerful arrow bounced of the shield like it was made of rubber. Senji raised an eyebrow before both eyes opened wide when he saw Madara throw his sword like a shuriken. It was kind of beautiful and dangerous at the same time, the way the light reflected off of it and the way blue chakra flew from it in waves. Perhaps what was beautiful about it was when you stared at it, it felt like you were staring at death itself. Kyoso Enbu. Evil Disturbance Waltz. Senji started to laugh hysterically. The pure madness radiating from him as gold chakra began to use from his and condense on his upper body. In his hands formed a gorgeous gold bow and in his hand was a delicate broadhead arrow. It was pulled against a bow string made of dozens of tiny gold strands as strong as steel. Kinten Kyujutsu. Saigo Ryu. Horobi. Gold Release Bow Technique. Final Style. Destruction. Senji yelled as he released his arrow as much chakra and power as possible, after all his life was on the line. The gold arrow streamed through the air like a beam of light before striking the spinning sword. The T-Wo deadly techniques struck but for a moment, neither seemed to gain any distance on each other. But slowly, the Kyoso Enbu pushed back the golden arrow before they both flew directly toward Senji who NLY chuckled as he was struck within the chakra explosion. Madara could only watch as the two techniques created a dome of blue and gold chakra that leveled the trees around them. He walked toward the dome only to raise an eyebrow when he saw Senji wounded and bleeding but still alive. It looks like you win Madara Uchiha, but killing me won't bring Akihiko Uchiha back, Senji said before he began to cackle. Blood caked on top of his once sparkling white teeth. He suddenly stopped laughing when Madara lodged his kama directly between Senji's eyes. My brother's memory doesn't need to be dirtied by you saying his name, Madara said with a scowl as he picked up his kama and with a flick of his wrist, the blood was off and all memory of Senji Hagoromo gone. Hisao quickly rolled out of the way to avoid being a shish kebab and stood up, his hands in the tiger seal hand seal. He took a big breath before blowing out a 20-foot stream of flame in the shape of a dragon. Kaden. Karyuden no Jutsu. Fire Release. Fire Dragon Bullet Technique. Tobirama scowled as he disappeared in a flash to dodge only to reappear with his hands in the tiger seal and a water dragon forming in front of him. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water Release. Water Dragon Bullet Technique. Hisao grinned as flashed through 4 hand seals before ending on the snake seal. Doden. Dosekiryu no Jutsu. Earth Release. Earth and Stone Dragon Technique. The earth around them quickly rose from the ground and morphed into the shape of a long oriental dragon before flying and meeting the water dragon head-on. Due to Doden's elemental superiority to Sweden, it tore through the water dragon and flew straight at the white-haired Senju. Tobirama placed his hands in front of him in a triangle formation. Raiden. Raryuden no Jutsu. Lightning Release. Lightning Dragon Bullet Technique. From the space between his hands, a ball of dense electricity formed before flying straight at the Earth Dragon. Mid-air, it transformed from a baseball-sized sphere of electricity to a 30-foot serpent of deadly lightning. Hisao took a deep breath before blowing out a twister with glowing green eyes. Futon. Furyuden no Jutsu. Wind Release. Wind Dragon Bullet Technique. Once more the elemental superiority of Futon over Raiden caused the Wind Dragon to defeat the Lightning Dragon. Tobirama clasped his hands in the T-Gear seal and was about to blow a fire dragon when he realized how stupid this situation was. I'm done with this game. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water Release. Water Dragon Bullet Technique. He yelled as a water dragon shimmered into existence before him before taking off at a speed beyond any attack in the battle yet. Hisao's eyes widened in surprise before he was forced to dive out of the way to avoid being destroyed by the pure force behind the water dragon. Interesting, Hisao whispered under his breath as he stood up and brushed himself off. I figured out your trick, by forming the other 43 seals in your head and molding the chakra the same way. You can create the water dragon with only one seal, Hisao explained. Tobirama rolled his eyes and shook his head. You're wrong. Tobirama sighed when he saw Hisao raised an eyebrow and rolled his hand for him to continue. Perhaps if you were a little smarter then you would realize that I don't need to form the other 43 seals in my head. Hisao's eyes widened in understanding. But that means, Tobirama ignored him and continued. The water isn't something you control. It isn't something you force. It flows and you simply form it into what you need. Water began to surround Tobirama in globules and there was a crack of thunder as rain began to fall. Tobirama placed a palm out toward Hisao and gave a small chuckle. I am the Sujin, the god of water, and you will bow when you are before me. Instantly the rain stopped mid-air before gathering into dozens of water dragons similar to the one formed by Tobirama's signature Suiryuden. However, these were much bigger, at least 50 feet long, and each of their ruby-red eyes were cast on Hisao. Tobirama clenched his hand into a fist. Suiden. Hyaku Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water release. 100 water dragon bullets. That was the end of Hisao Kohaku, the smartest man in the elemental nations. Kakuzu frantically dodged and danced between the blades of the trees around him. They came at all angles and were relentless, all going for kill shots. If it were not for Kakuzu's skill and experience, he would be a shish kebab. The string man jumped over one blade before kicking another away, only to be forced to bend backwards to dodge a swipe from a naginata. He raised a Doden-coated forearm to block another strike from a broadsword only to be struck in the chest by a kanabo, sending him flying backwards. Kakuzu growled. Enough. He grabbed his cloak and ripped it off, revealing a bunch of stitches tied using the same black thread as before. Quick. Kaylee, 4 bundles of thread sprouted from his back, each sporting their own mask. The front bundle was in the shape of a demonic tiger and wore a red mask. The beast to the right of it had a dark blue mask and was a strange 4-legged creature with thin wings that looked incapable. To the left of the red masked tiger was a bipedal creature that looked deformed, and on its face was a yellow mask. Finally, the last bundle was a demonic bipedal creature that wore a light blue mask with a beak. All in all, these creatures were unusual and that made them dangerous. Kakuzu clasped his hands into the snake seal. Raiden. Gion. Lightning release. False darkness. From the mouth of the creature with the yellow mask, a beam of pure lightning shot out and decimated a bunch of the trees around them. Kakuzu didn't stop there and flipped through 3 hand seals. Kaden. Zukoku. Fire release. Intelligent hard work. He quickly formed the ram seal. Futon. Atsugai. Wind release. Pressure damage. From the mouth of the tiger shot a huge ball of fire while a tornado shot from the mouth of the blue-masked creature. Hashirama could only watch in horror as the 2 techniques combined to form a humongous storm of flames that quickly overtook much of the forest. Hashirama jumped back and began to think as he landed. It seems those creatures can use a elemental nature each, and they all came fr. His back, meaning they are connected to him. I'll probably have to destroy each creature to defeat him unless I destroy him and the creatures together. Hashirama's eyes widened and he grinned, his hands clasped into their infamous snake seal. Mokuden. Sasenju. Wood release. Several thousand hands. From the ground below him erupted a structure easily as tall as a biju. It was made entirely of wood, although this was not normal wood. This was Mokuden wood, made by the Shodaime Hokage, and was as strong as steel. It was shaped in the form of a Buddha, while behind it stood thousands of arms, each resting gently on top of each other. Holy shi! Kakuzu mumbled under his breath, only to cut off when he saw Hashirama clasp his hands together from the top of the Buddha. Kaden. Suiden. Raiden. Doden. Futon. Hashirama screamed as he pumped chakra through the statue. From each of the 5 holes in the statue spewed a different type of elemental chakra. The sheer force and power of each bloss Chi was at least A ranked, and when used in combination, it was beyond S ranked. Hashirama, however, wasn't done just yet. Chojo Kebit Su. Top transformed Buddha. The arms of the statue quickly detached, before raining down onto the same spot where the elemental attacks struck. The hands instantly reduced the ground to rubble with their powerful punches. Hundreds upon hundreds of fists fell with a new force that the earth shook with each punch. Finally the attack finished, leaving only a crater large enough to fit the academy in. Hashirama could only watch solemnly from the top of the wood structure. His arms crossed as he was forced to kill one more man. "We are all immortals until our death," Hashirama mumbled under his breath as he jumped off his statue and disappeared in a shunshin to find his family. It had been a long day, he just wanted to go home. If Hashirama had waited 5 minutes, he would have seen a Doden-covered arm burst from the rubble. It's been a week since the Gokage Kai Dan 5-Cage Summit, and Naruto had taken some time off to relax. His gut wound had taken slightly longer to heal than normal due to it being directly over the Kyuubi's seal. Thus he had to wait for his wound to seal up with his healing factor he inherited from his father, which took a full day to heal. A full day. That's so long. Finally, after a week of just sleeping and eating ramen, lots of ramen, his father asked him to come back to work and meet him at the Hokage's office. Once he got dressed in a simple blue kimono with a dragon design on the back and a pair of wooden geta, he disappeared in a flash only to reappear in the Hokage's office. Already there was Madara, Izuna and Kagami in all of their Uchiha-ness. Next to them was Tobirama with his normal stoic expression and the rest of Team 7 who were holding hands. "Thank you for coming out this early," Hashirama said, his hands folded before him. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Yatu-san, it is rather early." "Shut up Naruto-kun, Naruto Baka, shut up Fishcake." Bawako, Kagami and Hiruzen scolded simultaneously. Naruto rolled his eyes at his friends and looked toward his father, an eyebrow raised. Hashirama was not wearing his Hokage robes and was instead wearing a plain green kimono with an image of an intricate forest on the back. Laying before him was a white bundle with an odd triangle-shaped hat on the top with the kanji for fire on it. "I have called you all here for something important," Hashirama said with a sigh. "I am stepping down as Hokage," he said solemnly. Madara, Kagami, Izuna and Tobirama raised an eyebrow. Bawako raised a hand to her mouth and gasped. Naruto and Hiruzen slammed their hands on the table simultaneously. "What? Batu-san, you're a great Hokage," Naruto pleaded. "I know, Naruto-kun. Thank you, but I no longer wish to remain in power," Hashirama said with a sad smile. "I am not retiring as a shinobi and will remain an active member of the Konoha Ninja program. I, however, will not be taking missions and will instead take up the open seat as head of the academy," he continued. Everyone nodded in agreement. Hashirama was one of the strongest ninjas in the village, and him teaching the next generation would be good for Konoha. Hashirama leaned back into his chair and placed his hands behind his hand. "Now comes the step of deciding the next Hokage." Naruto's eyes lit up, but Hashirama shook his head. "Sorry Naruto-kun, maybe next time." Naruto immediately fell to his knees and began to cry anime tears while Kagami poked his with his foot. However, Naruto quickly realized something and jumped to his feet. "I nominate Tobirama Senju. I nominate Madara Uchiha." Naruto looked to his left to see who nominated Madara and was surprised to see it was Izuna Uchiha. Naruto never really talked to Izuna as he always found the Uchiha rather odd. Madara sighed, cutting off Naruto's train of thought. "As much as I would like to become leader, I don't want to be stuck behind a desk. I would like to retain my position as Jonin commander." Hashirama nodded in understanding before everyone in the room turned to Tobirama, who looked conflicted. "You can train us when you have time," Bawako pointed out with her hands on her hips. "You'll not gonna get another team as awesome as us," Hiruzen said with a cheesy grin on his face. As much as they annoyed Tobirama with their bickering and occasional childishness, the three of them were very powerful for their age and took to his training like fishes to water. "And you have shadow clones to do paperwork," Naruto chimed in while doing jazz hands in an attempt to sell the deal. Tobirama thought about it for a moment before sighing. "Fine. I second this decision," Madara said. "As do I," Naruto followed up quickly. Hashirama nodded. "Then it is settled. Tobirama Senju will be the Nadaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Send a message to the daimyo. I guess we won't be having a team meeting today," Hiruzen said with a wide grin. Naruto chuckled while Bawako and Tobirama rolled their eyes. You're all dismissed, Hashirama said before jumping up and running out the door, leaving Tobirama to get used to the Hokage's office, and the paperwork. Yo Tem. Kagami turned around and raised an eyebrow. He knew only one person who called him that. What do you want, Baka? Kagami said with an irritated tone, brushing his hair out of his face. You want to spar? Naruto asked with a big grin on his face. He had changed from his kimono to a simple black gi with a gold obi around his waist, yuru going across his shoulder. If it was any other person that asked to spar him and was dressed like that, he would have thought he was insane. Naruto on the other hand had more weapons and supplies on him than the Konoha arsenal at all times. Stupid overpowered Fuinjutsu. Kagami sighed. Fine. Naruto threw an arm around Kagami's shoulder as they walked toward the Uchiha compound. Dude, you need a haircut. You're starting to look like Bawako. Kagami rolled his eyes and pushed his long shaggy hair back. Baka. The two talked for a bit as they walked toward the huge Uchiha sector of Konoha. Due to the Uchiha clan being the largest in the village, they had an entire sector of the village that included close to a dozen homes. The largest house, however, was for Madara Uchiha, clan head, and included its own training field, which was where the two teenagers were heading. Kagami pushed open the solid oak door and looked into the large kitchen. Morning, Kasen. Naruto peeked his head around the door and grinned widely. Ohio Asami Obasan. Standing over a huge steaming pot was an incredibly beautiful woman. She was petite but very curvaceous, and she had pitch black eyes that would change to the Sharingan when chakra was pushed into them. Her hair went down to her waist and as dark as midnight. This was Asami Uchiha, the woman who tamed the infamous Madara Uchiha and the mother of Kagami Uchiha. Ohio Ka-kun. Naru-kun, she said with a wide smile. Naruto took a deep sniff before breathing out. Smells delicious, Asami Obasan. You're a better cook than Kasen. Asami giggled. Don't tell your mother that. Kagami rolled his eyes at the top hyperactive people's interactions. We'll be in the back. He quickly grabbed Naruto around the arm before pulling Naruto outside. Training ground was very large and full of poor trees that would not be there by the end of the battle. Naruto took note of a lake large enough for a S-ranked Suidenjutsu and a big clearing in the center of the field. Why is your mother the only upbeat Uchiha? Naruto asked offhandedly. Kagami was about to respond when he froze and frowned. I have no idea. Naruto chuckled and placed his hands into a cross-shaped seal. I'll set up a barrier. 4 shadow clones sparked into existence before disappearing in a Kushunshin far away. Once they were each in their positions, they flashed through hand seals before slamming their hands onto the ground. Shisekyojin. 4 red yang formation. A red square barrier erupted from the ground around the Uchiha compound, and from the sheer chakra coming from it, it was powerful. Kagami raised an eyebrow as most of the time Naruto set up the Shisekyojin 4 violet formation. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly at his friend's expression. My dad showed me how to use it. It's supposed to be a lot stronger than the normal barrier. Any restrictions? Kagami asked as he pulled from the seals on his wrists his weapons. It was the only Fuinjutsu he knew, as it was only a level 1 technique. Naruto grinned as placed his thumb and index to his lips. Try not to die. Kagami mirrored his rival and placed his thumb and index fingers to his lips, all the while channeling chakra to his left eye, which had morphed to a beautiful Mangekyo Sharingan. Kuden. Goka Mekyaku. Hell Release. Great Fire Annihilation. Enten. Goka Mekyaku. Blaze Release. Great Fire Annihilation. The waves of black and white flames met in the middle of the field and clashed in a battle of the highest caliber. For a moment, the black and white Miha forming an almost yin-yang sign of searing flames. Kokudo Isen. Black blade single flash. A blade of wind ripped through both waves of fire like a hot knife through butter, allowing Naruto to jump through. Yuru ready to slice Kagami to pieces. Madara hopped from tree to tree, eager to get home when he noticed a Shisekyojin barrier go up before there were 2 huge bursts of chakra. He raised an eyebrow before taking off at a speed that couldn't be seen by the human eye. This wasn't a dance he wanted to miss. Kagami leapt out of the way, landing in a roll only to stand up with his 2 short swords in his hands. They were known as Kidetsu, Demon Splitter, and were forged by Sengo Muramasa, student of Guro Masamune and Demon Swordsmith. Each of his swords were as dangerous as weapons. Could get and were among the only weapons that could clash with a Masamune. Naruto sliced vertically only for Kagami to parry the strike with his right blade. Kagami's left blade went for Naruto's head, only for the Senju to bend at an impressive angle and kick Kagami in the stomach with his right leg. The Uchiha flew back from the chakra-enhanced strength, but he managed to right himself. His eyes spun, forming his Mangekyo Sharingan, and blood began to flow from his right eye. Kidetsu burst into pitch-black flames and Kagami smiled, which looked odd on his usual stoic face. Enten. Hiei. Blaze release. Flying shadow. With as much force as he could muster, Kagami swung his blades, launching 2 blades of black flames at Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened before he raised his hands, black conch erupting from them and surrounding his hands in rings. Fuinjutsu, Kyuin. Sealing technique. Absorption. As soon as the black flames struck Naruto, they were ed in by the kanji before the sealing jutsu disappeared. Damn it, absorbing chakra idiot, Kagami mumbled under his breath before flying forward and slicing at Naruto from 2 different directions. Naruto frowned before stabbing Yuru int. The ground and performing a double dropkick to Kagami's chest, dodging the slice that was going for his head. Kagami flew once more before stopping in a crouch. He wiped some blood from his lip and sheathed Kidetsu. Stop kicking me, you asshole. Naruto sheathed Yuru and placed a hand to his chin in thought. Why are you so vocal in battle? Kagami growled before placing his hands into a tiger seal. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Fire release. Great Fireball Jutsu. Naruto's eyes frowned and placed his hands into the tiger seal as well. Touchy Tem. Sweden. Teppadama. Water release. Gunshot. Kagami and Naruto both blew out their respective attacks, a crimson fireball and ball of water. The 2 attacks met in the middle of the field and caused the entire field to erupt in steam. It seemed once more the 2 ninja were equal. Madara leaned against the bark of one of the many Mokuden trees surrounding the training ground. He had easily walked through the cage-level barrier with his cam. Ui and had decided to watch the fight between his kid and Hashirama's. He had to admit, they were good and would get better with age. Kagami was good, better than he was at his age, and had the potential to be stronger than him. He had the strongest eyes the clan had seen in close to 1,000 years, and Madara didn't doubt that Kagami would be the one to lead the clan to greatness. Hashirama's kid was smart, if a bit goofy like his parents, but Madara could see that he was taking in every piece of this battle and trying to turn it in his favor. The calculating power and intelligence of Tobirama, the pure fighting genius of Hashirama, and the sheer creativity of Mito, all condensed in one body. Perhaps these 2 will be the ones. Mokuden. Mokujin no Jutsu. Wood release. Wood human. Hashi. Rama called as chakra burst from his body and entered the ground. From the ground underneath burst a humongous humanoid creature that was at least as tall as a Biju. Hashirama's wood dragon sprang on the earth where it rested and wrapped itself around the wooden avatar. Overall it was an imposing sight, the Shinobi no Kami, god of shinobi, standing on top of a titanic wooden avatar with his arms crossed. It would have terrified any man, besides Madara Uchiha, Konoha no Bishamon, war god of Konoha. Dense blue chakra burst from Madara's body, Kansaitai Susanoo. Complete body Susanoo. Quickly the chakra began to solidify around Madara, forming an avatar of equal height to Hashirama's Mokujin. It was a fully armed samurai with a long Tengu nose, and standing in the middle of the Susanoo was Madara Uchiha. His arms crossed and his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan glowing with power. I will take you home, Tem, even if it means I have to knock your idiotic Uchiha ass out, Hashirama called. As he released more chakra than the gobi from his body, Madara drew his ethereal katanas from their sheaths on the side of the Susanoo. Konoha isn't my home anymore, Dobi. Izuna is there, Asami is there, Tobirama is there, I am there. We are your family and home is where your family is. Hashirama pleaded but sighed when he saw Madara raise a sword to him. The 2 brothers in everything but Ood stared each other for a moment before their 2 avatars shot at each other, Madara's swords out and Hashirama's fist glowing with chakra. Hashirama, Madara. Naruto ducked under a kick from Kagami and tried to sweep the Uchiha's legs only for him to jump up. Naruto swung himself into a one-handed handstand and kicked up toward Kagami with a chakra-enhanced kick, Senkyutai. Drill both eye. However, Kagami remembered that attack from their previous spars and spun out of the way to land in his stance. Feet slightly farther apart than shoulder length and both of his hands in front of him, both palms facing down. Naruto frowned before landing in his own stance, his feet shoulder length apart with one palm facing down in front of him and a knife hand at his side. The two shinobi looked at each other for a moment before they both disappeared in blurs, reappearing in the middle of the field. Kagami had gone for a high roundhouse kick to Naruto's head openly to be blocked, a kick of Naruto's own. Naruto quickly overpowered Kagami's kick, attempting to strike the Uchiha in the face, who dodged the strike and spun around attempting to strike Naruto in the back with a backfist. Naruto, however, spun to face it and blocked with the strike with his right hand, striking Kagami in the ribs with an open palm strike. Kagami spit up a bit more blood but retaliated with a punch to Naruto's gut. Naruto grunted in pain before charging chakra into his right hand until it was glowing a bright silver. He spit out some blood before diving forward, silver chakra streaming from his hand. Katsujin